Recording. So hello everyone. Everyone can hear me so far, huh?
Can Doctor.
Yes,
Yeah.
Doctor.
Any questions, anything from last week that you want me to go through again? Okay, last week's everything is being posted on onto eLib. So those students who are new, can you just get yourself onto eLib and download all the recordings and also download the recordings. The recordings are all on YouTube. So all you need to do is to keep the link. You know, if you have like a file, a Microsoft Words file, you can just put a table and say that, you know, this is week 1 class, and you paste the link there. You know, so you don't really have to keep a very big file. So I've already processed all my classes are processed and put onto YouTube. And that only people who has the link can access it lah. Okay. It's not open to everybody. Okay, so I will just shut this attendance for now and go to the class. Okay, right. So we are in scope management, which we have already started last week. We spoke about in order to, when you come to scope initiation, when we are initiating our scope of work. So what is scope? Scope is the final outcome, the final product, the final project, the final delivery of the particular facilities or particular item or particular product that you're building, and it involves all the temporary work and the processes that will go into it to make it happen, you see. So it's not only about description of the final product, like drawings, specifications, you know, I mean, like, it's not that look of the final product, that one thing, you know, that you get. It's actually the whole process. The process involves, you know, doing the specifications, doing the quality management plan, doing the temporary works, you know, doing the risk management plan, the outcome, the deliverables. What is the final item that you're delivering? Is it school building? Is it a submarine? Or is it a, you know, is it a bridge? Is it like 50 houses, double story semi-D houses? You know, so we do have this sort of don't just be constrained to the final outcome. Okay, it is not about the final. It is about the final outcome, but it's not everything about the final outcome. Okay, so if insufficient scope is being defined, then you probably will miss out on something later, especially in the calculation of resources later, because you do not allocate enough of resources or right resources, the right amount of money for you to build it, you know, and then you will end up having a cost overrun, delays to actually redesign or add in the design, or to add in the construction work because you forgot about it or it's not there. The mistakes are made all the time, so I'm not surprised. Okay, so don't say that, oh, you know, that's a very stupid mistake. It is very stupid mistakes, but stupid mistakes do happen, you see. I mean, like we do in tender, in project initiation, we could miss out a lot of things as well. Yeah. So first, of course, it's about, you know, how the project is being initiated. Every new project will come from some new ideas. The new idea could be like you sitting down in a coffee shop talking to your friend, and then suddenly you have this wonderful idea, and then you take out a piece of paper or you use the napkin on a table, you know, to draw something there. You know, that is initiation. Okay, so initiation can come from many areas. Usually it's needs, usually it's desires, usually is a desires of human being to have something, you know. You want to have a bigger house, you want to have a detached house, you want to own a mall, you know, you want to own the landmark of Malaysia, you want to own a twin tower, you know, maybe, you know, something like that, you know. So that is desire. Needs are usually the need of the people for living, for continuation of normal lifestyles, you know, and or improve lifestyle. So those are needs, you know, needs for traveling, needs for food, needs for shelter, needs for transportation. So these are all needs, needs for clean water, needs for sewage, you know, dispense of gray and black water. So that creates sewage lines, you know, desire to protect the environment. You know, there may be a new business opportunities, a new product, that you want to sell, or a new system that you want to sell. That is opportunity. There's a market for it. So then it can come from a lot of areas. So there's different sources. So before we actually want to say what you want to build, okay, when you initiate something, we want you to study the project environment first. And there is two ways of doing it. One is what we call the issue analysis and management, which I've explained last week. You talk about issue identifications, you talk about issue filtering, issue definition. It's basically what is surrounding the project that can actually create an impact on the project, and how the project can actually impact the external environment later on, you see. So another technique that we can utilize also is what we call the environmental impact assessment, EIA, okay? So with issues, you are actually just basically going in, are the same, honestly, they're the same thing. It's about looking at the project environment. It's not about you jumping straight in and do your work breakdown structure and try to define the project. That's what we are trying to say here. It's about you understanding where your project will be, where is the location, where is the topography, what are the soil conditions, you know, the overall environment surrounding the project. So in issue analysis and management, we are looking into different issues that are surrounding the project. Is there any marketing issues? Is there any government issues? Is there any authority issues? Is there any internal organization policies or issues that you need to look into, you know, or is there a funding issue? So basically, issue management are actually trying to capture whatever that could cause any problem to the project in that sense. So issue management, essentially, it is like EIA. These are two different techniques. You use this also can, you use that also can, you know, it doesn't really, you combine both of them also can, you know. So you can actually combine EIA, you look into EIA, but when you're looking at EIA, you're using the issue management kind of technique to actually go about it. You see, so it is fine, you know, it is fine. So there's not wrong, you know, you can use issue management, you can use EIA, you can combine them. And the main thing is, with all these techniques that we have, we need you to think in a system manner. System manner is with the different elements within that project environment. You want to show their linkage first. So you want to show that, you know, the media or the heritage has issues, you know, and that issue is related to your project. That your project actually will be building on a cultural land, land that is more designated to a cultural thing. You see, so then when you have when you build in certain areas, in the rural areas, you may affect their agriculture and their, you know, their tempat semayang kind of thing, you know, like where they pray for the ancestors and all that. So you see, this one there is an issue, and that issue is linked to your project. Your project will have an impact. So system thinking or system thinking manner, the way you think, is not about a flow chart. It's not like, you know, this is the issue, I will, you know, go into detail and then more specific detail, and then coming down into smaller components. It's not like that. System thinking is just like you're looking at the project, you're putting it in the center of the project. Like the project will form the center, and this will be the localized issues, and this will be the external, the further external issues that you're looking at. And this same thing like this is going to be applicable to EIA studies as well. So system thinking is like a way that you are handling, or the way of thought process that you are going to be learning to use, you know, when you are trying to understand issue analysis or EIA. See? So, and issue analysis, with system thinking, we are going to draw a two-headed arrow between the issue with another issue, or the issue with the project. So with the issue and the project, you're going to draw an arrow that has a bow line, and that will be that will be a very strong linkage, meaning that whatever happens to your project, this particular item will be affected. And then if you draw a medium thin line, it will be a medium effect, medium impact. And we'll talk about this medium impact, high impact. What are we actually looking at? Maybe it's talking about time, cost. It's all about project objectives. What are you going to achieve, you see? So the impact will be on the project objective, on the delivery of the project. And the project will have an impact onto the that particular issue as well, you see. So it will improve the issue. Will it solve the issue? Will it enhance the issue? Will it make it worse, for example? So then if you draw a very thin dotted line, it means that it is somehow related, but it's not so important, you see. So some people may think of this as risk management, but you at this stage, there's no way that you can do risk management first. You know, they just don't have enough information to carry out a full scope of risk management. So this system thinking is actually very good for you to, you know, like here, you just have to list down, you know, what is external, what is internal. It could be legal, political, authority. Authority should be the second layer, direct authority, and then government policies, you know, heritage, culture, religion, education, health, social, economy. So we do have these external issues, you see. An internal one, like a second layer one, could be just a localized factor like government authority policies, you know, standards and code that you're going to be using. You can talk about current traffic surrounding the project, the current water supply, would it be enough for the project? You know, or whatever system are you going to be using for the sewage system later on, you know, and when you placed it in this kind of region, you start to think, you know, I mean, I have seen proposal by certain developers and they just basically don't think like that, you know. Whenever you get them to propose something, they come up with, okay, this is my piece of land, I will squeeze as many buildings as I can, I will squeeze as many residential as I can, I squeeze as many shop lot as I can. You know, if I can build 3 stories, I build 3 stories. If I can build 5 stories, I build 5 stories. And then when you ask them what is the justification, they cannot tell you. You know, they cannot tell you. And you ask them whether if they think about, you know, adding a 300 residence houses here in this particular area, would it cause a huge traffic congestion that is completely irresolvable, you know? And then they don't think about it, you know. And then when you put in such a big population into a certain area over just a period of one or 2 years or 3 years or 4 years, will you create a shortage in water supply? Will you increase, will you cause a lowering down of water pressure? You know, and then you feel but water cannot go to all these houses, or you cannot go to second floor or third floor because the water pressure is not enough, you see. So have you thought about the pipeline? Have you thought about the electrical supply, substation? Have you talked about usage of what we call underground optical lines for Wi-Fi and also for telecommunication? You know, we don't think about these sort of things, you know, when we propose, when we initiate the project. And some of you may think that, you know, it's none of my business, you know, I'm never involved in planning. When I get, you know, as an engineer, all my life is in construction, or all my life I'm in design, you know, so it's really not so much of my concern. Everything has been studied by the client before. But I do know that there are many people here actually work for the client, for example, developers, or for example, the government agency, you know, and some people will actually work for like some of the major agencies like DID, JKR, you know, and these are all client agencies that also have to put a lot into planning of the master plan, you see, of the projects and all that. So this kind of technique will come into useful, you know, when you are in that position. And who knows, your career will, you know, you never know, you know, maybe one day you'll be asked to come up with a proposal for something like that, you see, and then you will realize that, you know, some of you are still very, very young, just graduated, so there's plenty of job opportunities, you know, that will go into this sort of planning, scope planning areas, you see. So then, you know, you list it down, and then internally, of course, is the project, the organization that is carrying out the project, the direct people, the direct stakeholders, the direct funders. These are all into here, you know, the technical management team and all that. So these are the internal ones. So then we will start to, things will flow out and things will flow in, you see, and then you can actually just put that relationship lines between all of them to do that analysis. So whenever you define some issues and whenever you have a way to resolve the issues, you will see that when I resolve cultural issues, what other issues would I be resolving, or what other issues would I be affecting, or how I would affect the project, or the authority requirement will affect the cultural issues, etc., etc. So this sort of manner is what we call system thinking. You know, we're not thinking like a flow chart. We're not thinking like a bottom up triangle. I mean sorry, what you call top, like a flick triangle. Flick triangle is heavy on the top. You know, you can go down into detail on the bottom. You know, we're not thinking like that. You know, we're not thinking about breaking things down. We're thinking about it as an overall. And then when you define, you use issue management, you can use this technique. When you use EIA, you can use this technique. See? So when we use EIA, here also we define, so EIA is not only, I mentioned very clearly, it's not about ecological issues, because the word environment is here. So many people think that this is an NREB kind of thing, but it's actually not. So if you do environmental impact studies, environmental analysis, these are all related to studying the environment. Can be traffic, can be legal, can be drainage, it can be water supply, it can be political, legal, social, economy, finance, you know, and contributing to the GDP and all that sort of things, you see. So, or maybe even contribute to the landmark, contribute to the identity of the areas, you know. These are all related to, of course, environmental ecological thing is also part of the studies, you know, but because these terms are regularly used by NREB. So NREB will ask you to do EIA, and they focus on just pollution, water quality, air quality, weather, temperature, you know, and things like flora, fauna, animals, you know, insects, whatever that is related to the ecological, biological system, you know, that sort of thing. So we get the assumption when we hear EIA, everybody, you know, the head will turn. Okay, it is something that you do for NREB. You know, if your project is so large, they get you to you know send this report to NREB, and NREB will ask you to do an EIA, and after that, then they will do EMP, environmental monitoring plan, and then you have to monitor the environment every 3 months, and then send in a report every 3 months. And then when your project is completed, you need to give in a final report and sign off by NREB before you can commence your the usage of the facilities, for example. So we think about it that way. But here, when I talk about EIA, it is just like the issue management. It's about that particular environment of the project, and then you are trying to get point out the entire ecological system, like not as in the environmental ecological systems, but overall where the project are situated, and how it is situated, and what are the surrounding factors that it actually will impact. You know, it's about project environment studies, you know, not environment, ecological environmental studies. Okay, so this EIA, what we're talking about here, again, repeat, it's not about the ecological systems. It's about the project environment, and these are especially important, especially important when it comes to very big type of infrastructure projects, you know, like highways, dams, water course alterations, railway, transportation line, building flyovers, you know, additional roads, systems, big, huge raw water intake tank, treatment plant, and also followed by water supply systems. You know, it's a lot of them are actually very much talking about what we call crown land, crown estate, meaning that it's belonging to the government now. I mean, in British and Australia, Canada, they use the word crown, but you know, in Malaysia, we just use it as a government land, you know. it's government project, it's government initiated kind of things, you see. So yeah, so these are, you know, initiated for the people sort of projects. So we normally will assess, they will go into these sort of things a lot more than the regular development kind of project. The regular development, if you go like maybe about 50 houses and above, or usually about 200 houses and above, then they will start to impose this sort of studies. But with 50, 60, less than 100, usually they wouldn't really look into these sort of things as well, you see. So yeah, I mean, it's just like try to get a planner to come in, you know, put in the houses, put in the land, you know, put in the road systems, and then plan it, test it, you know, and then you don't consider many things. So this this assessment, we will try to screen for the we will try to screening, like it's actually screening the overall areas, okay, of this location, of this locality, of this where this project will be situated. And then after that, do some assessments on the local environment and also the external environment, and how your project actually have enough of economic viability or financial viability to carry it out. See, yeah. So then after that, these are the notes here are very detailed. There's a lot of notes from me usually. That is the way that I actually hold my classes. I actually give you a lot of details in my classes. I mean, in the notes, and then you can actually read them through. You have to read them through when you actually do your revision, because when I explain in classes, mainly it's always the flow, the framework, you know, and what is the important thing. But the more of the details are actually in the notes itself. So do read through the notes and make sure that you know where everything is. You see, so it's best to tag your notes. Like this part here is actually talking about this part here is talking about this, you know. So when you come to exam, especially open book or take-home exam from us later on, it's a lot easier for you to pick up, you know, where things are, you know, instead of just never do revision, never read the notes, and then you expect, you know, during the take-home exam, you guys go and Google scope management, and then copy whatever documents that you can find on Google and paste it into the answer. And that may not be the right answer, because Google is not your lecturer. Dr. Google is not your lecturer. Dr. Ting is a lecturer, okay? So you need to fulfill whatever that I have taught you, not whatever Google has taught you, see? So that is the bad thing about this online thing. You know, a lot of you do, instead of listening to the lecture, reading the lecture carefully and tagging the notes and making sure you know where everything is at its own places. And when you need it, you take it and, you know, apply it kind of thing. It goes with a lot of, you know, like a lot of law students actually do a lot of open book exam, because all the test law is like books and books and books of it. But then if they don't know where the cases are, imagine when they go into exam, you think they can Google? They can't. See? So they have to know where exactly the cases are, you know, for them to refer to in the answer. So here, take-home exam, especially for project management, will really require you to know at the tip of the finger where everything is, you see. So you cannot go last minute. Even if I give you a 5 hours take-home exam, you are not going to be able to search for all the information. So yeah, here you will see that, you know, for scope management alone, plus a 2 set of notes, you got about 50 over pages, you see. So tell me that you can read through this during exam time and find the answer and put it in the answer script. And most of the questions are actually application kind of questions that you need to take some of the knowledge here and apply it, you see. So if you do not know the knowledge, if you don't know where to apply, you're going to be in deep trouble, okay? Okay, so you see, the EIA basically solved this sort of question. What happened as a result of the project, you know, what the project will contribute to, and what kind of changes would it make to the existing environment? Would it cause more traffic jam? Would it cause huge congestion? Would it cause, do you need a new deceleration land? Do you need new water supply system? Do you need substation? You know, and all this will actually change the project itself. When you put these things down, it will change the environment. Mother Nature is a very fair thing, you know. You take something away from it, you put something in that is yours and is not hers, she will come back and punish you. So make sure that you can, whatever that you put in and take out, it has to return back to that balance that you're going to get, for the good of the people and the end user going to use it, you see. So like I say, you can, you have a piece of land, it's 50 acres, you can build, like, I think in Sarawak kind of environment, you probably can build about 50 times, right? And you can build about 500 houses, And then even if you block it up into phases or blocks, block or phases, and you do it 2 years every one time, one phase, each phase you build like 50 to 60 or 100. You just imagine the traffic that is going to be causing, the input of traffic that is going to be external. I mean, that is going to be the new people there, and then how the new people will be consistently going to be jammed in their area because they can never get out, you see. So these are the changes that is going to be created, due to the project itself. And the project itself will affect the existing equilibrium of the area, and the current situation or the current environment of the area will also affect the design and the definition of the project. So we actually prefer it to be this way. This way means that you don't build something and wait for the result to come, and then you solve another brand new set of problem, or enlarge the road guy, build new pipeline guy, and then when you suddenly realize that, we do not want any overhanging telecommunication 5G lines, then you realize that you haven't built anything, for anything underground, and then it's too late. You need to redo them and redig the road and make a lot of repair work and all that. So why do we want to do it that way? So we prefer to study the environment first, understand the environment first and what is required in the environment, what is the current equilibrium, and see whatever changes that you can make to your design or to your construction technique or to your construction methods or materials, so that you do not create further problems. See, so I prefer the B way, not the A way. A way is you build and then you resolve. You may create more problem, but we think about the problem later, kind of thing. And B way is basically you understand the environment, you understand the equilibrium, you understand all the social economics impact, social economics, legal, whatever impact that the current environment has on the project, and then you design to match that, you see, to as much as possible do not change the equilibrium, okay? Or even if you change the equilibrium, it should be for the better, not for the worse. So these are the questions that an EIA study will actually seek to resolve, what explains the changes, what changes matter, what can we do about them, what can we do to reduce the impact, or what do we do to enhance certain things, so that the project will actually contribute to the environment back in a good way, not a negative way, And then is the decision maker, the funders, being informed on this, and do they know the consequences of this, and that will maybe later on affect their marketing, they will affect their sales, they will affect their profit. So they need to know, you see. And you want to know this as early as possible, so we do that early. So this is in the initiation stage, okay? So in this initiation stage, different authority will call for, like different government, they do use different kind of standards of what should goes into EIA studies, like a positive assessment of a project. So this is like assessing the viability and the feasibilities of the project, in terms of its environment. And look, at the moment, we're not saying that you're going to have, we are not asking to list down any work breakdown, any scope of work, nothing yet, nothing. It's just an initiation. Is it a good idea to build a road here? Is it a good idea to build a highway here? Is it a good idea to build a bridge? Is it a good idea to build, to carry out this particular investment of this development? So these are the initiation only. It's still the coffee shop on paper, on a piece of napkin, on a piece of tissue kind of stage at the moment. It's just initiation. But the main thing is I want you all to appreciate, understand the environment first, okay, before you initiate anything at all. So these are the these are the things that we talk about. You know, these are more the legislative issues lah, that sometimes will be concerning about EIA studies. Okay, and then principles in managing environmental impact assessment. So what are the focus? You know, what are the people? Who are the people that should be looking into it? And what are the decision? What to do to help decision making? So with this set of notes, basically we are trying to focus on project initiation. So once the initiation is completed, if we go to second stage of the notes, then we are looking into, you know, after you understand the project environment, understand that this is initiated, the work is initiated already, is actually, the idea has been born. Yes, it does looks like it's potentially doable. Then we will put that down, we'll express that into the project charter, and which is the preliminary scope of work. So basically in the project charter, you are looking at, here we call it the conceptual studies, and the outcome of it will be just basically the you know, at the charter stage, you are just saying that, okay, we're going to do a bridge, we're going to build a submarine, we're going to build a new department, we're going to start a new research project onto this topic, you know, and these are just the starting, you know, like the ideas. We're going to build a brand new concept of development. We're going to do modern styles. We're going to have we're going to build townhouses that have never been seen before in Kuching, for example. So these are in project charter. So project charter is basically the work has been initiated. The concept state, the concept in terms of just some basic plans, drawings, write up, you know, maybe less than 10 pages or less than. It's sometimes called the project brief, project charter, project brief, project conceptual studies. So we do not expect a huge document here, because it's not. It's just above. It's just like saying that, we need this. You know, we need this from the project environment. We need this. You know, and we need to. This particular facilities or this particular development is going to bring benefit. It's going to resolve a lot of problems. You know, it's going to resolve traffic problems. If this new road, this new highway, this new freeway, this new flyover can resolve some problems. So these are the things that you're looking at. Of course, you will also be putting in the general concept of maybe you're going to build a 5-lane, or you're going to build a 3 tiers kind of freeway, or you're going to build a new drainage network, or you're going to build a new pipeline with a bigger size, you know. So these are the initiation, and of course you will also have the timeline, the budget, not in a lot of detail. It's just a very preliminary, very conceptual estimates, and then who are the people who is going to be the stakeholders and in charge and all that. So what are the constraints? You know, from the environment studies, you need to point out what kind of problems that you may face and what kind of constraints that you may have, and what's the goal and objective. So it's just this sort of things. This sort of few topics that you're going to get, you know, in that particular scope, project charter, or that creation of that particular conceptual studies. So these conceptual studies, like I said, it hasn't gone through anything yet. It's just basically the idea that has been drawn and, you know, being put together in a more clearer manner that you can give to your funder, give to your investor, you know, give to your potential funder or potential champion or potential sponsors, you see. And, you know, you can propose this to the government, you can propose that to a developer, you can propose that to your management, you can propose that to your higher management team, you know, like the higher management or the bosses of the company and all that. So these are that particular project charter. So with that particular project charter, okay, we will move in, and then once this is completed, you know, with the definition completed, the project charter is out, okay. This is actually laying the groundwork for the creation of the scope statement. You know, it is the background. So once you've got that initiated, we are going into the development stage of the scope. You know, we're going to develop this particular stage. At this stage, we're going to be developing, we're going to plan our scope, okay? And this particular proposal, of course, at the end of the day, it has to earn the agreement, or it has to earn the support of the project sponsors or project funders or a champion or the stakeholders of the project. Okay. So the first technique that we will be using, like once you get into this stage, and what we do is, now that you know you're going to build a bridge, and the bridge has about, like, 2 lanes, and how wide, how big, and what sort of styles that you're going to be using, maybe trusses styles or suspension bridge, just an idea of how everything will look like, and place it down. So what you do now is you need to, in that scope planning, the first thing that you need to do is to define the scope. And define the scope, the best technique that will be used is to use a work breakdown structure. So for civil engineers, we play with this a lot, and with all the students that I have in the class with me, that is my ex-students, you are very familiar with WBS, because I get you to do a lot of assignments and in exams, and I think about a lot of things on WBS. So many of you, like Shiking, Rama, they all, like Richard, you're all quite familiar with my love for WBS. And, it was one of the few early lectures that I had given them. Okay, so for those of you who are not familiar with WBS, you should be really falling in love with WBS, because it is one of the most very useful tools, especially at the very, very initial stage of the project. So basically in WBS, you're actually breaking down the project into a manageable components. So you are looking at the project now, the charter, you have it in your hands. It's a 5-page charter or a 6-page proposal. It's like a proposal, it is like a conceptual study, it's 10, 20 pages maximum. Then from there, you are actually going to break it down, into different components, like the lanes, the type, and then the from point A to point B, or from which area you're going to cover, So these are, you're going to break it down into, from there, you're going to break it down further, you see. So further means that what else are you going to be building? What are you building? So you're going to do piling work, you're going to do relocation work, or you're going to do site preliminary traffic control, and then you're going to do like piling, foundation. Like for a development project, you're talking about piling, foundation work. Then you go for your structure. Then you go for your road access, road pipelines, sewage line. Your sewage line could be just manhole systems, or you're going to use the centralized systems, okay, or centralized cleaning systems. So which kind of systems are you going to be using? So you are actually going to break it down. We're going to break the project down into the work that needs to be carried out, you see, and that will actually define the project in a very, very clean, in a very, very concise, clear and concise manner. So if I were to show you, like, this normally for civil, we just break it down into 4 layers. Okay, you can do it in this way, like a 1.1, 1.1.1 kind of manner, or you can have layer 1, layer 2, layer 3, layer 4. So we can do it in 4 columns kind of manner. So the layer 1 will be the overall work. So this is like your project charter being broken down into first layer first. Then you have your foundation work, building work. You can have your building structure work, substructure, superstructure, and then you can have your road system, car park, maybe things like water pipeline supply systems, sewage line, architecture, M&E, etc., etc. So you actually will break it down first. Overall, what will need to be going into the project, and then from there, take the layer 1 and break it down some more to a smaller layers, and the second layer will be broken down into the third layer, which is even more smaller. So yeah, like I said, you can do color coding. I know Primavera, they will do color coding for you for the different layers. You can do that also for Microsoft projects if you want, but I think in Primavera, they're practically all auto actually. But I personally like to have it in that kind of a column kind of format. 1 column is 1 layer, 1 column is 1 layer. Unless you really need to, you go to the 4th column, it will be a very detailed remark of the work, okay? All right, so this is what I will do. This is the backbone. This is everything it is to it. At this stage, you may not go into a lot of detail. You may just have layer 1. because it's only about the scope statement. It's only during the planning stage where the drawings and designs are practically ready that you can actually go into more detail. Some people, they actually do it in the organization chart kind of format, like you have got something on the top, and then you break it down into the, you know, the second layers, and then the second layers break it down to third layers, and then the fourth layers. You can go in that kind of manner, you know, in the organization chart kind of manner. Yeah, they can do that as well. I mean, you can do that as well. But I like the organization chart structure kind of manner for product in manufacturing. Like if you want to build a piano, if you want to build a car, if you want to build a fan, you want to build a new aircon system, structure is actually nice for that kind of thing. But for civil, because our work is actually quite big, you know, and the area that it covers are actually quite wide. So that kind of organization kind of manner usually did not end up looking good and fill up the one page nicely in that sense. Okay. So I mean, it's not very presentable. You know, sometimes you cannot squeeze everything into one page. So I personally prefer the column method or the color coding or the list type of method that you can use. Okay. You all can see my screen, no problem. Am I losing everybody here? I mean, everybody seems so quiet, you know. And any question you have? Yeah, I'm just talking and I don't even understand. You're still around. Okay, good. Right. So any issues, anything you want me to share with you, like, or any things that you have faced in your work that you want me to actually share with you? And you know, like, do you use, so like, you probably use this technique but you don't know, you know, about this technique. So this work breakdown structure technique, I'm covering this work breakdown structure technique now all the way up to planning. Even though at this stage, like I said, you probably in the scope planning definition stage, you are just going to list down maybe layer 1, maximum layer 2 kind of thing, you see. So it's just to get the work that will go into the project, okay, so that you can do some costing calculations, some scheduling, you know, to tell the project stakeholders or funders that this is how much it's going to cost, it's going to take so long, you know, this time it's going to cost. I mean, these are the length of the project. So it's just to give an idea, you know. So, but the screen that I'm explaining to you here basically is really very, very detailed kind of work breakdown, which you will use for your assignment actually. And now I need you all, since we are on to work breakdown structure, by next week, I would love to see you guys confirming on a project. There is about 14 of you that is registered for this particular course. And I'm sure 14 of you, none of you have dropped this course and all of you want to pass and do flying colors. I mean, I do want everybody to get at least an A, B and above, meaning that I want you to get B plus and above, which is 70 and above, you know. You play around with project management, you don't get 70 and above, you are actually like really missing out on a lot of things, you see, like you're missing out on improving your CGPA, you see. Some of you may be a bit more prompt to it, but some of you are not. But try to get B plus and above. That's what I'm trying to say. It is a better way of score. It's kind of an easier way of scoring. If you study hard enough, if you go through it well enough, you should be able to do it by having at least a B plus and above. So, but of course, I think my ex-students all know that I'm not a very easy marker, you know, and end up normally, you know, you don't get really high grades. I also don't know why. You know, I'm not proud of it. I'm not proud that I'm a harsh marker, but unfortunately, when you're doing a take-home exam, the expectation of the lecturers on the answers are actually a lot more than, you know, when you're sitting down 3 hours and I actually give you a lot of sympathy marks because I feel like, oh, you're Christian, this guy, you know, he didn't remember it. But I know that he's trying hard, you know. But when you have a 5 hours at home sitting there, you know, trying to answer my questions, I can get a bit more harsher than usual. So yeah, so get your grades going, you know, get your grades going. I want to show you your assignments. Since we're on it, just to, instead of going in the notes and talk all about the notes, let's have a little break here and we talk about your assignment a little bit. Open up the assignment. Have you got any idea of how you want to break down your group? Can I just get an idea about how you want to break down your group? Yeah. For project one, for assignment, project one or assignment, it's basically going to be marked by Dr. Lee. I think she's a bit nicer than me, so usually she will give you better marks, but not that much better. Okay. So you can see from both individual assignment and also group assignment, both of these require the first step of work breakdown structure. So in the individual assignment, you don't have to have groups, okay? You can discuss among your group member, which you already set. You see, so you can set up the group first, okay? And then, you all do your own individual thing, if you want, okay? But then if you want to combine it together, I'm fine with it as well. But just don't give me the exact same Gantt chart or the exact same network, you can modify a little bit, as you go along. Okay, so for your project assignment, just to get an idea, I'll put it down here just to get actually good one. Anyone wants to sort of like, since some of you are already in, like groupy group kind of thing, do you want, can I have like just an indication of how you want to break down your group?
How many person, doctor, in one group?
2 to 3. 3 is the maximum. Two is probably just nice, but 3 is okay. If you want to give me a individual assignment for the group, I'm also okay. I won't penalize you. I'll give you more marks. For one, and anyone already has a grouping in mind, or you have all got a partner in crime kind of thing all the time, like you are very tight with one another.
Not actually, doctor, but if maybe because all the while we pick on our group, maybe can doctor assign us to our group so that we can learn new things with new partners.
No lah, that is a very noble idea, but at the end of the day, if you don't work well with one another and you don't get good grades, then you start crying. So better not lah. You want to, who is talking here? Is it McCurry? No, McCurry is not attending the class.
McCurry is not here, doctor.
Who's talking here?
Roland, Doctor Roland.
Oh, Roland. Roland, you want to join with McCurry? Are you joining with McCurry, or you already have good friends here already?
I haven't get any for many group here because I'm. Anybody also I can work with.
Okay. Richard, who are you working with, Richard?
Actually, my mindset is similar to Roland.
What is your mindset? That I is good for you?
Yeah, anyone is okay.
Okay. There will be bound to be a group that is 2 person only lah, because
we only have 11 people. Maybe plus McCurry again, 12. So
I do want to mix the old people with the new people, so that you get a feel of one. Yeah. Maybe like some of the group can have the old people in it and the new people in it. People like Marsha, Johnson, and
Yes,
also,
that's a good idea, doctor. I support that idea.
yeah, okay. So you got some old bird and new bird. Old bird and new bird. Young. Any one of you want to volunteer yourself first? Like you really don't want me to choose for you. You have what you have in mind.
Doctor, can I volunteer for my group?
Who's this? Chicken, is it?
Chicken, yes.
Okay, so you are with?
Shirley. And Ngo Min Kyong.
No, huh? Okay.
Okay, thank you, doctor.
Friends, huh? It's good. it's a mixture of young because Ashikin is just graduated and Shelly and Minkyong are actually working like more on a senior engineer kind of thing already. So Shelly is in development and Noor is in government. So I think you're going to have quite a variety of project as well. So I do want the really, really junior people also to mix with the old people as well. Yeah. Yeah, like people who are actually really working, then you actually get a lot of chances. You can use their project, you see. Mm. And what
Doctor,
about yeah?
my group Zulkarnain,
Okay, Zul, you're with.
Ashraf Novian Parabi.
Wow, you already have friends with Ashraf, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Zulkarnain, the Zulkarnain.
Zulkarnain. Okay. Zul with Ashraf and who?
Zulkarnain and Ashraf only.
Oh, you are the volunteer too only, ah.
Ah.
Ashraf, you're okay, ah? Ashraf? Jangan nanti Zul mau kawan you sama kawan dia.
Yes, Doctor.
And noted, huh? Okay, so then the rest can be having three, like if you want, huh? If you still want two, I'm fine with it. Okay. Richard, you want to pair with Johnson since he's your friend?
Yeah, I would like to, but I'm asking his permission first. So far, he's not replying my message from WhatsApp.
So temporarily we put him with you, lah, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, because you know the thing better, and he is really like not from Unimas. Yeah, so that can be a bit of an issue. So I want you two to pair with somebody more senior, like somebody who actually have projects and all that. Arthur, I think you should pair with Rama, right? I mean, like since both of you are actually buddies.
I pair with Marshall.
Marsha, huh?
Yeah.
You can have three.
Yeah, Doctor.
Okay, Arthur and Marsha. So you want to add another one?
Yeah, no problem.
Or Haiza, are you always working with who?
Narahma.
You always work with Norama. Okay, so I better put the two of you together, huh?
Okay.
Haiza, Norama. Okay, so we basically have, then we still have McCurry. But after Marsha, I think we should have somebody older sitting with you as well, actually. Irfan, where are you, Irfan? Irfan, you want to join somebody? And we've also got McCurry because he's actually having his graduation today, so he's not here. Irfan, do you have any idea who you want to work with? Those that have two, you still can join them, you know, it doesn't have to be just the two of them. Roland, you want to join Arthur and Marsha, Roland?
I'm good anyway, Doctor. No problem.
No problem, huh? Okay.
I can work with anybody, but don't worry.
Arthur and Marsha, would you like to have Roland joining you?
No, okay, no problem. Okay.
Not no, but no problem,
Yeah.
Roland is a very senior engineer from Sabah. Okay, he is a very very experienced engineer, design engineer from Sabah. Okay, I think he's in the industry for about how many years? 15, 16, 20 years, something like that.
Yes, Doctor, correct.
Yeah.
I think.
A very nice chap, no problem. I think he can actually guide you guys in some ways because both, not to say that you are not experienced. I know both of you are actually working as well, but it's just that maybe, for you all, it will be a bit more, like something, like handing assignment guide, that sort of thing, Roland will know quite well. So it's good to have somebody all in a group. Then you don't kalang kabut later on. You don't know how to use e-lip, don't know how to download, or don't know how to upload, that kind of thing,
Excuse me.
Yes.
I would like to pair with McCary and Johnson.
Okay, McCurry here. Okay, good. I was thinking of that as well. Yeah. So now we've got a fund. I need to cover a fund somewhere. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12, 12, 12. Who is missing here? Irfan and who? Answer is not here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Okay, I just need to put Irfan somewhere. Okay, right. Irfan, where are you?
Yeah, go with group 4.
Group 4 as in Zulkarnain and Ashraf, is it?
Yeah, can also.
You both of you, okay, to have him,
Yeah, can. Sure.
I actually ask you so public, you have no choice, but say yes,
Yeah, it's okay.
That is my technique, okay, to force you guys together. Right, we've got 5 groups, perfect, just nice. So this is a group mixture that we have put together. That is by your consent and also kind of I help you to choose kind of thing. So it's a mixture of both. So that's nice. Okay. So I will post this group list later on for you all so that you all can get the group list as well. So okay, look. So now we're back to the assignment. So the first assignment that you're going to get is individual assignment. Okay, so this is the first concern that you're going to have. Like I say, you can actually work on the same work breakdown structure that you use for group assignment, and you can have a separate one if you want to. There is no specific thing that I am actually requiring, except that it should be at least main 12 activities, 12 main activities, which somebody like Richard and Shikin and all that, you probably have heard me requiring this from you, 2 years ago. So 12 activities that you're gonna pick. You're gonna pick a project, okay, that you like, that you have. Like maybe somebody working in your group can actually give like 2 or 3 projects for everybody to choose from and all that. See? So like yeah. Then what you do is you just pick a project, any project. It can be a bridge, it can be structure, it can be building, it can be road work, it can be water pipeline, it can be drainage, sewage, anything really. As long as you can fit in 12 major activity, the first layer 1 activity. Maybe 11, 10, 11, 12, around that region. If you go up to 15, I'm fine with it, but nothing less than a 10, I would say. Okay, so it's plus or minus about 1 or 2 like that. Okay, so depending on the intensity, if there's a lot of activities, then 10 maybe will do. But if it's not so intense, then maybe about 12 will be nice. Okay, so what you need to do is you need to do your work breakdown, which I hope to see by next week. Next week, basically, I have got some pre-recorded lecture for LCC and also for BE that I will post out for you. And all you need to do is come to class. Then we will discuss on your assignment and which project that you're using. And if you want to show me, it's better for you to create a work breakdown first and then show me the work breakdown. And then after that, Dr. Lee will come in and she will start to explain the requirement of the rest of the project with you. So you have to hand it in this one here in about it's around 1st of April. So you have about a month or so from, actually a month and a half, and when Dr. Lee comes in and give you the class, you have about 3 weeks or so to finish up this particular assignment, So again, we are quite flexible. If you do have problem with this deadline, we are not going to penalize you. Just let us know. Like if majority of you want to have an extra 5 days, 10 days, over on top of this, is actually okay. Okay, I'm actually okay with that. But nothing more than nothing more than a week lah. I would say lah. If you want extra time, let me know. Okay. What you need to do is you create that work breakdown. We discuss on your work breakdown on the viability of whether this work breakdown is actually a good one, or whether it is actually correct, whether it is actually that you need to add in certain things. We can discuss about your work breakdown. We want to spend that time doing that, you see. And then after that, I'll let you off, and then you can go and listen to the pre-recording, and that's it, And then we will flow like that next week. So once you've got your work breakdown settled, when Dr. Lee comes in and give you classes on resources, then you will go into planning for your labor, machinery, and also material. So from that project, you need to plan for your material. You need to come up with that the material requirement. For every work breakdown, for every work that you break down, you need to attach material to it, and then you need to attach labor and machinery to it, and then you need to do the resources profiling. So you need to at least come up with the histogram for the labor, machineries, okay, especially labor and machinery. So with that histogram, whether you feel like that particular profiling is actually a good one or not. If it's a good one, you feel like it's okay, we will stick to that, then it's fine. So then you don't need to make any changes to your resources. But if you need to do resources smoothing or resources leveling, then you can actually add in the leveling and let it be a one standard level for the particular work breakdown. Okay, then from there, you need to find out the production rate of all the resources. That can be based on many sources. It can be from CIDB, it can be from JKR, it can be from contractors, it can be from any contractors who are actually experienced in that type of project. They can give you the production rate for the brick layer, for the for the machineries, And then from there, you will work out based on production rate, the duration required, and then you need to work out the network on the sequencing of the activity, and then the Gantt chart. The final thing will be the Gantt chart. So you actually get 10% on the resources and 10% on the time management. So don't worry, it may sound like a lot of things, but you all can still work in your group that we have set up just now, okay? Or if you do not want, you just get a consent from every people in your group. If you want to do it together, you can. It's just that because you've got different projects, or even if you have same projects, you will do it together. But you don't present the exact same files to me, then that will be like copying one another work, because this is individual assignment. Okay. So at the end of the day, you still have to write that report, do that report presentation, that present the things in the report in your own way, so that you don't come up with the exact same. You're not going to just copy the files and then hand it in with the exact same files. You're not going to get any marks for it, okay? This is individual assignment, okay? So then we will go stage by stage. In LU5, we will definitely finish covering on resources and production rate. And LU6, Dr. Lee will finish showing you Microsoft projects, and drawing that activity sequencing and all that. So by then, basically, this is all covered, and she will also groom you guys, kind of thing, like get you guys to do this and that, so that it contributes to the assignment as well. So we are not going to leave you like this, like, oh, this is the assignment, good luck, we will see you again in 1st of April, bye-bye, No, we're not going to do that. And so we will guide you and groom you as we go along. So when I come back to you during LU7, I will post this assignment all up already by today. So then from my class, I will groom you when you finish her assignment. Okay, when you finish her assignment, you basically have that time, that schedule available already. With that schedule, you can start to use it. Because up to here, the resources analysis and the work breakdown and all that, this is the exact same thing that you're going to get in her assignment, you see, in that individual assignment. So this is a repeat. So from there, once you've got that, and your schedules, you can actually start to work on the cost component, because that material is not time related, but manpower and machineries, they are time related. You employ 5 carpenter, work for 5 days. Each day is how much, you see. So with that, you need to come up. You need to do your rate, and then work out the final estimation and the final budget, and you present an S-curve with it, and that will finish up part 1 of the assignment. And then the second part of your group project will be on risk management. So time and cost related risk, you need to identify the risk, analyze the risk, and then come up with the risk matrices, and then work out the profile of the risk and come up with a mitigation plan. So this is going to be if you go through these assignments very carefully, I don't think you have any problem for exam. This is actually as good as revising the subject and, revising for the exam. If you know how to do it very well here in the project, you are going to be very fine when it comes to the exams later, okay? Just the steps and procedures and all that are pretty much the same. So LU7, I will go through cost management with you, detailed cost estimates and all that. And then from there, you can start to do this. And then LU8, quality management, then Dr. Lee comes back and you all can continue to work on your assignment. And then LU9, I will do risk with you. So when it comes to LU9, when we finish LU9, you can carry out your project already. So, but there's nothing to stop you from doing this. This bit here, this is exactly the same thing that you're going to be doing for your time assignment. And then your due date is on the 30th of April, which I would say there wouldn't be so much of because of Raya holiday, because of your RP2 presentation, there isn't much of a room to give you a lot of extension after that, you see. It's going to be very, very tight. You're going to be sitting for your first exam on the 8th, 9th, and 10th. So even if I delay this, if I cannot delay it like to 7 or 8 kind of thing, then you'll be sitting for exam, it will be affecting your exams, you see. So maximum delay that I probably can give you is up to maybe 2nd, 3rd, just 1 or 2 days. So this deadline is probably quite unchangeable. You see, so this is something that I need you to take note, huh? Don't be too optimistic about this deadline of me giving you extra time. Okay. So these are the assignments that both assignment and project that we are looking at, and they're going to be 50%, and you really should be aiming to score at least 40 and above or 35 and above for you to get a really good grades for your exams later. Okay. Any questions? Anything you want to ask me from the 2 assignments?
Doctor, I have one question. I'm not clear on the 12 main activity that you specify you meant by the earthwork, ground treatment, for example. Is that what you meant by the main activity?
Yeah. Basically, it's the first layer. You need to have the first layer, like foundation work, building work, or drainage work, water work. So if your project can be broken down into about 12 major activities, yes, you can. Like for example, in your case, let's say if you are going to be working onto the you also don't want to be too. Let's say if you're looking at intake, okay, the structure for the intake, okay, the water intake structure. Okay, say for example, after. So what you do is you can write here. I mean, even one structure, you can actually break it down into 12. If you can break it down into 12. For example, foundation work, for example, water quality studies, foundation work, then you can have the platform, you can have the intake, the part, the M&E part that you draw out the well or the pontoon or whatever, that is one thing structure. So then you break it down. This is not about breaking it further down. It's just the overall, you can break down the project into a few components side of things. Layer 1, okay? and then pipelines, and then testing, commissioning, and there's a lot of things depending on the project itself. It really depends on the project. Some project may have like the well itself, the platform itself, for the intake. Some maybe use platoon structure, So they are all different. So yeah, it's depending on how you break it down, the M&E part and also the structure part, the foundation part. Yeah, I think like some people, they will, it doesn't mean that the bigger the project, the better. It is more on having enough of activity to describe your project.
Okay, doctor.
If let's say another example is if you do like, for example, development, 6 terrace houses. So these 6 terrace houses, your work breakdown will probably be things like site preliminary survey, that will be about 2 layers. And then after that, there will be about 2 activities, and then followed by the piling work, and then foundation work, and then ground floor, first floor, second floor, roof. And that will be about 3 already. And then you can have externally, you can have like the drain, the road, the landscape, the architectural. You see, so that kind of thing add up to be the first layer. So when I say 12 plus or minus 1 or 2, it's basically the project. Can it be broken down into 12 components?
Doctor, okay.
Yeah,
This one 12 is meaning of the layer 1, right?
layer 1, correct.
Okay.
So it's not like all these things combined, layer 1 and 2 combined and then have 12. No, it has to be layer 1 got 12. That's why it's quite essential for you all to at least show me your project next week and show me your layer 1. Then I get a better idea whether you are actually doing the right thing or whether you're actually counting some. Sometimes some students, they actually put the layer 1 so big, like building 1, 2, 3, 4, and then that is the layer 1. And I think that is a bit too broad in that sense, too big in that sense. And then they don't have enough activity. So maybe like you can do like layer 1 can be building 1 foundation, then building 2 foundation can be another layer kind of thing. So it's just how intelligent you are. I mean, like how you are being street smart enough to actually break it down in that sense. There are some problems is students think that they don't have enough, but actually they are actually making it too big. For example, the layer 1 are too broad. They use the whole structure as layer 1, Like maybe some of you have a school project, for example. So school project is actually okay to be broken down into 12 activities. You can have like some students tell me, oh doctor, I don't have enough of activities, and when I look at them, it's like, oh, they actually school building, they put one building like that, and then they don't have enough. So what you can do is you can actually put like building 1, like school block, canteen, that it can be different. But then within that different, I do not want you to say, okay, canteen 1 layer, school block 1 layer like that. No, it has to be like maybe foundation. How do I put it down? Let's say foundation work for canteen can be 1. So then you have more chance of breaking that canteen into the first layer, not so much of canteen. And then you put here layer 2, foundation, structure, ground floor, first floor. And then you don't have enough for layer 1. Then your layer 2 become your backbone, So we do want to go straight into layer 1 and describe the project as soon as possible. And try not to base layer 1 onto things like challenge 1, 0 to 500, and then challenge 2, 501 to 1000. Don't break it down like that. Based on the work itself, you break it down. the physical work. You guys have any idea in mind that you want to tell me so that I can actually sort of shape it a little bit for you? Roland, you have any idea that you want me to shape it for you, or Arthur?
Maybe we try it first, Doctor, then we show it next week.
Can.
Because what you say actually sometimes is true lah. People put layer 1 as the block, block the school block canteen, block academic, and then the layer 2 only start the activity. Like what is it a foundation? No, correct.
Yeah.
Now we wanted to put everything as layer 1 lah kan.
Correct. Just as long as anything that is physical, you put in layer 1. So if let's say grandstand, running track, academic blocks, KNS 0 to 100, KNS 1 to 10, kind of thing. Those things are actually very descriptive. They are not actually work, they are just the name of the project kind of thing. So don't put that in layer 1. Avoid that basically, okay? Otherwise, you will probably find yourself not enough ideas, not enough of layer 1. For example, one school project, you may have canteen, you have academic block, you may have library, you may have padang, school padang, and then you add up only about 6 or 7 items only, then you start to cry, hey, not enough activity, but the project is actually quite big, so you tell me not enough activity. Okay, so don't use the name or the challenges or the descriptive part of the project to put in layer 1. It's basically tasks that needs to contribute to the project. That is what we want for layer 1. Go straight and talk about that. Okay. So even if you want to put like academic block, it can be like academic block, but then the work is still foundation. Layer 1 straight away you go to foundation, structure, superstructure, roof, and then what else? Architecture, M&E, so then at least straight away under academic block you've got 5 layers already. Then you got canteen, but you still can put that in the layer 1, but then it's just a name of that work down there. See? So you can do that. Okay. So if I have an example, I don't remember if I still have the example. Somebody was like doing this masjid or some sports stadium. I think somebody did a sports stadiums last year, and then they actually at first they were also breaking it down to things like grandstand, platform, padang, running track. Then it's not enough. They really have not enough. But actually the work is a lot already. So then we actually get them to split up more into the work itself, then they have enough. Yeah, I think so. This stadium, okay. So you got to see, at first they were saying that, like grandstand, they put it as one activity, and then they put like multi-purpose hall as one activity, and then end up only like got how many activities only? Not enough, huh? So then we tell them that grandstand should not be marked under one, like the layer 1, but it's just a description, okay, just a name. So you just put it there. You can still put it there, okay, but then you don't count it as a 1.1, 1.2. This is 1.1 is the layer 1 now. So then 1.1 general works, earthwork. You all can see, let me enlarge it.
Yes, doctor. This one, I think they take it from the real project, right? Because there's
Yes,
cost.
yes, yes.
Yeah, like macam BQ punya ni, this one. They follow the BQ punya arrangement.
Actually, this is what they have broken down. So they took the Seriang Hole, and this is actually what the student actually work. They broke it down themselves. This is the one that they take the BQ type of arrangements, which I didn't like, because that one is too BQ like, like too copy from BQ kind of thing, you see. So this is actually not. This is actually the real breakdown. The students break it down themselves, 1.1.1, 1.1.2, and all that. So yeah, they break it down, RC, staircase, and then after that, the roofing, and then multi-purpose hole, and then they also have on the other side here, some sort of like a water sewer, water architecture. So altogether, they have about 20 layer one kind of thing. So I hope this is a better idea of how you should approach this, huh? This one is not very good. This one is very BQ. So I didn't want to show this to you. This is also very BQ. This one is nice. I like this one. This is the one that the students broken down into 4 layers as well. So level 1, brickwork, foundation. Okay, so embankment, slab, abutment, and then substructure, top cap, others, superstructure, finishing. This one is a bit longer, just that I cropped some part only to show some of my current students. These are the work that these are the type of work that I kind of like more than this. This one is just cari makan only one, huh?
So doctor, we only need to do until 4 level, kan?
You don't have to do until 4 level. If you can describe it within 2 or 3 level.
For the whole project, meaning once we submitting at the end, by the end, the maximum is what? Minimum is 4 or 3?
Maximum 4.
4 level, okay.
Max, because it gets really complicated if you go for 5. 4, in fact, is already a bit too much. In civil, normally we just prefer about 3. 2 to 3 is already quite good. Some works is only 2 lah, but most of the work can go up to about 3 layers. Okay, so I think yeah, this is a sample to show you guys, but I won't give this sample to you because otherwise you'll be copying to that already. All right. I want to see some new kind of sort of like a new kind of creativity from you all to do your work breakdown. Okay. But you must describe the project as well. I mean, like you must describe the work. Okay, so your introduction has to be something to do with your project background, the locality of the project, shows the locality of the project, and then follow on by the work itself, describe some of the work in maybe each type of work, 1 or 2 paragraphs, and then come up with the pictorial format of the work, and then follow by the work breakdown and how you break it down to 4 layers or the 1.1 or the layering systems if you want. Can be like that. So either this or this lah. Okay. So once you break it down, then that is your first part work breakdown done. And then from that work breakdown, it will be applying to many different things. It will be application to say labor, resources. First, there will definitely be material first, and then resources. And then resources, some people like I know some people with working experience, you may want to do it in gangs. Like gang 1 comprises of how many machines, how many people, and all that. So that one again you can discuss with Dr. Lee because she's taking you for resources management. So how you want to break down your resources, I have no specific requirement. It just sometimes you can use gang 1, gang 2, gang 3. Gen 1 is what, Gen 2 is what, Gen 3 is what. So it's a little bit cleaner for you to present in your report. But it is okay also to just put down the numbers of carpenters and numbers of bar benders, numbers of excavators, bulldozers. The actual numbers is also fine. It's very, very fine actually. Yeah, it really depends on how you want to present the project, the report to us later. The key thing about all this is it sounds like a lot of work, but then it is a practice that some of you has already done. Some of you have never really done it, but then you know about it. And some of you are very new to this, but most of you are actually not. So I'm not surprised that you have a lot of these things sitting in your office anyway. So just take it, use it, it's fine, but then don't just suddenly boot out, because like I say, it has to be according to the flow of the syllabus, and not everything that is done in the industry at the moment is actually correct and perfect, and is actually well done. And that's why we do have project that is not going well, you see, and then this could be some of the management reason that things are not properly planned out in the first place. So we do not want to repeat. I do not want you to hand in an assignment that has a repetition of a problem that is already happening in the industry, you see. So just be very selective on the information that you're using. Don't, because of the project that you pick, you design, that person design it as 12 months, and then here you have to go 12 months. It's not like that. You can use your own understanding, your own management styles, and your own way of presenting the report. You can come up with 18 months, you can come up with 16 months. It's fine, okay? The main thing is originality of your work. Are we clear on this?
Yes, Doc.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Right, so let's continue with our class. So work breakdown, we've covered extensively. So from the work breakdown, we are going to issue what we call a scope statement. And this scope statement will have this sort of requirement, the objective, the scope descriptions, which is the work breakdown, the requirement, what are the conditions that you need to use, the resources and all that, that you need to plan for the work, okay? The boundaries, meaning that what is your scope of work, like your what you don't do certain things, you do certain things, what is included and what is excluded, what are the project deliverables. At the end of the day, deliverables are the foundation, the superstructures, the guardrails, the suspension bridge, and I mean the cables, and on the suspension bridge, and then the actual rope on the bridge, those are the deliverables of the project. So you need to describe that. Okay, so these are not everything, not necessary everything. Okay, because depending on the size of your project, I would say we really basically will come up with a scope statement that will kind of like cover all these things, but some of this may be just a touch and go at this point in time, okay? But you can see that from initiation until this point in time on scope statement, you are actually slowly creating, the picture of the scope of work is coming to be more clear and better, okay? And funding limitation and scheduling limitation, all these things is not expecting you to draw a Gantt chart that is 20 pages sort of things, It is more on the expectation, on the estimation, and the funding is also, the costing is also on what we call preliminary calculation on the up rate and all that. So this one we will sort of go through a bit more when it comes to that sort of time and cost management. But here you do have different tools that you can apply, but this would describe main thing, okay, the main thing that is the description of the project in terms of the objective, deliverables, and also the requirement and the boundaries. These are actually some of the most important things. And then, of course, the other things are constraints, assumptions, and all this. These are just supplementary things that you can actually add on, and that you've already seen in your issue analysis and in your EIA studies, you see. So you can just combine that and build it up on your conceptual studies report. So, and of course, you need to point out who are the authority and what are the configuration, who are maybe in development, you need to see the configuration, the layout of the project. So yeah, I mean, like you do have some drawings, you do have some ideas, you do have some objective. The work is clearer now. The components of work are there. The usage of materials are also indicated here. That you need to use some normal materials, special materials, special skills labor, special machineries, special equipment. If not, then it's just the normal things. Then it's just a normal scope statement. So in this scope statement, once you completed this scope statement, okay, you will start to go okay, so this page onwards, like I say, on the scope statement, I hear the notes actually, describe each and every one of the things that you need to kind of put in your scope. Not everything, again, like I said, not necessarily everything, because some work, our civil engineering work, they're all different from one another. A road work from a drainage work, from a water work, they are all different type of nature. So not everything needs to cover that we are putting here. You need to cover it. If you don't cover it, you fail, kind of thing. No, it's just a guideline. Here is a guideline of what you should put under your scope statement. Project requirements, what is the function of the project, what are the specific aim of the project, what kind of methods you're going to be using. Constraint means that is there any specific time constraints, specific cost constraint. Like for example, many years ago when I built the pipeline through the Kota Semarahan, there was a time constraint because they were in urgent need to carry out. They need water for the heart center. So when we do so that becomes a constraint to the project. You see, otherwise this project take 12 months, take 18 months is very normal. Suddenly they want the project to be completed within 6 months because it is a constraint. The heart center, opening of the heart center, the usage of the heart center is a constraint. So many projects do have certain constraints that will create some sort of schedule problem or cost problem or some form of quality problem or requirement that you need to tap onto the project. So this part here, we do want you to explore that as well, especially on these 3 items, okay? And how do you define how the project is successful? What is it that you want to see that will break this as a successful project? And then also the assumptions of the project. Okay, so these are some of the items. Like I said, the major items are all here. Okay, these are all the major items that you need to put down in your scope statement. So yeah, so these would, especially like I said, the project deliverables and the work required. So it's like a description of your work breakdown structure. So your work breakdown structure is part of the project. Okay, I mean, it's part of the scope statement, a very essential, critical part of the scope statement. And then the other bits like, what is supposed to be included, like you don't include what, this project don't include what, this project include what. And then, the requirements, successful criteria, the constraints, assumptions, and there are some of these are being described down here in the page 7 onwards to about page 10. Okay, so once you've got your scope statement, once you've already got your scope statement ready, we are going to go through a robustness test, the initial screening, because at this stage, it is still okay to call for a stop to the project. You don't necessarily have to bring it through because you haven't committed to any major design, you haven't committed to any major consultancy fees, and some of these are actually sometimes what those of you in consultancy, you will know when you are asked to do this scope statement and come up with some preliminary sort of like design and all that, normally you will charge fees like let's say 50,000 or 30,000 or 10,000, and then you will write there the cost will be used as part of the final design fee if the project is being given to you later on, or the project actually went through the robustness test and actually is a go ahead. At this stage, like I said, up to page 10 here, up to B, there's still a chance that the project may be stopped, like because of no money, because of the time, because of the constraint, because of the company does not have the resources to carry it through, or the negotiation with the landowner or the negotiation with the certain parties or partners fail, and it's not supported by the board of directors and all that. So that scope of work at this point in time, we are putting it through what we call a project evaluation test. We will put it as a robustness test. And the robustness test will come into two layer. The first layer will be a yes or no. Do we do it? Do we go ahead with it? So this initial screening, because a lot of these projects, they do have a piece of land that is many possibilities. Okay. And a project do have many constraints as well. Whether it's feasible, whether it's actually doable technically, whether the area that is passing through is maybe not constructible, not buildable. There may be logistic problem, there may be soil problem. So there may be a lot of these problems that can actually force the project to go into too high the cost and end up it is not a go ahead for your team. So this robustness test, the initial screening is basically just to go through whether it is technically feasible, economically viable. Okay, and when you do this selection model, you can actually have a sort of like a criteria, like things like ROI. It's a very basic kind of criteria, like mission, vision. Does it fit into your company's direction, goal direction? Does it fit into the funding? Does it fit into the plan? Does it fit into the identity of your company? So this very initial planning, so this very initial screening actually just basically go through this sort of like questions and answer and see whether you want to really say yes, like our board of directors or your stakeholders or your shareholders actually say yes to the project. So some of this model can be very quantitative or qualitative. So these are not so important. These are some of the some of the techniques that you are going to be using. So is it a really operating necessity, whether it's by competition? If you don't do it, somebody else will do it and then they will gain the market, so you have no choice but to do it kind of thing? Or not? Or maybe there is a problem with a limitation of the current production line and then you need to get this done. So you need to know what is the pusher, what is the not everything is based on is it making money, is it really you have the money to do it or not. There are some situations whereby the project is actually what we call a necessity, or a sacred cow, meaning that it has to come in. It has to come in because there are other things are depending on it kind of thing. So and in running an organization, running an engineering development firm or a government agency, a lot of times it is not about just the bottom line profit margin, whether you're going to make money. If you don't make money, then that's it, full stop. So it can be as much as maybe like competition and operating. If you don't have it, your operation cost will increase. So therefore, even though this project costs a lot of money and it may not have a good return in the first place, but it actually contributes to the other aspects of your organization, or maybe it's to your goodwill, maybe it's your like a landmark, or putting a stamp, or winning some company, like being able to put a mark of the company there. It's just a very simple example that I've just heard. I've just seen today actually. Is the Winter Olympics, correct? So the Winter Olympics, I think one of the skating rink or skating resort, whereby they're doing the competition is actually built by our Genting group. Okay, so you see, like they are investing in this, and when they invest in this to build this thing, they probably would not have a lot of income. It's not like they rent it to the Olympic Chinese government and they rent their resorts to this government for the Olympic contribution. They're going to earn lots of money from the Olympic, for example. But the Olympic itself, the Winter Olympic itself, is going to bring in the goodwill and also because it's so good, it's actually good enough for Olympics, and then it's been mentioned like one day 20 times on TV on the global audiences, like this resort this resort, or this skating rink, is actually for the Winter Olympics. So after the Olympics, then that is whereby you are going to get money coming in. So, well, you see, in the first place, the initial phase of them building it and carrying out the project, it may not sound like a very good money-making thing, so, but then it's later. And then, in a way, Genting Group is saying that to everybody, I have got, cruise line, I've got hotels, I've got gambling, and now I'm building a skiing resort. So this is a necessity for them in a way, or an extension of their product that they have in their organization. Is for them, their identity is recreation. Their identity is fun. It's bringing fun, bringing recreation to people. So building resorts, building all these sort of extra things, building these new type of ideas are actually something that is not really on paper is making money that you have to go for it. And it may not sound like a good idea, but then in the long run, it's creating the special identity for the Genting Group. So that itself sometimes is a lot more important than just whether immediately it's going to be making money or not. So this part here, what we're trying to describe is yes or no, whether there are some people, especially, in organization, you do have top management, you do have organization answer to, and there are prioritization in the portfolio of the organization, whether they want to go into resort, whether they want to have extra cruise liner, or whether they want to have build another what we call a theme park, and these are really need to actually put it down and then give it a robustness test and to see whether it actually brings in more benefit than cost. And then we talk about this benefit and cost, it's not exactly just dollars and cents. There's a lot of other concerns like goodwill, reputation, the company's direction, the company's long-term goals, and your project, there'll be many projects fighting for the company funding. So when you have this, you need to pick the best, and it must be the best time for this item as well. So it's just not something like, oh, okay, we're going to do it. But there's just not enough money to do everything at the same time, So we just have to be very careful about what we pick. So yeah, especially with private organizations, that is what we will generally be very careful about. Then we will have option studies. So from there, the answer will be yes, we're going to go ahead with it or not. And then you can have option studies. Option study is about project screening. You need to study the not only yes or no now, but it's actually more okay now. What other options are there in this particular skating rink or this particular resort? What are the what are the changes that we can make between options to options? What kind of composition? What kind of different layout can we have? So when you do option studies, this bit here, you will carry out what we call engineering economic studies. And in the end, like I said, private firm, government firm, NGO, they all have different objectives. They all have different value. They do have different approach to things. So they really cannot be, say, one specific item, one specific description, one specific formula for every project on the planet Earth, that you are carrying out. Like not necessarily, every government have to go to the moon, or go to Mars, for example. So different agencies, they do have different kind of objectives and their mission and their goals and their desire to do something. So what we are emphasizing here is when the project is a go ahead, you will need to understand what this project is all about. Is it a government funded project? Is it an infrastructure project? Is it a private project? Is it an NGO project for charitable organization? So this will make a lot of difference in your option studies. And then these option studies will require you to do things like economic studies, the MPV, that is one of the MPV and your ROI, your return on investment, there is ROI. You may need to do sensitivity analysis. You may need to do cost benefit ratio. You may need to do what other skills are annual method of calculating. So on the annual cost and all that. So this thing will be covered by Dr. Lee in LU4. So she will give you some of the normal techniques that you will see quite frequently in project option studies. So yeah, in LU4, we will cover this separate lecture in LU4. So here you just need to know that from this point onwards, after a yes or no, after the initial screening, you will go into the evaluation stage of the project to evaluate the possible options that can come through the project. See? So like I said, different layouts, you can explore different layouts, you can explore different composition, you can explore different sizes of pipelines, you can explore different type of brains or different type of techniques, and everything is possible. And that pretty much dependent on what the cost, what each and every one of the option will give you, the cost and the benefit. And the cost and the benefit studies can come into what we call a CBA or a CEA. CBA studies is more on the actual dollars and cents, and CEA studies, the cost effectiveness analysis, is more on the things that is indescribable in terms of dollars and cents, such as education, lifestyles, reputation, goodwill, future identity, directions of company and direction of organization, changing identities. Some organizations, they may be badly wanting to change the identity from a traditional style, traditional way of conducting business in a traditional way to the new online internet kind of way. So you do have that kind of, a lot of organizations nowadays have to move on to become, go online, do things more on run business more online and all that. So it's not so much of the real solid, typical old ways of carrying out businesses anymore. So some organizations may be wanting to change their identity, and these are some of the efforts that they need to put in order to turn around and become a new company, a new style company, so that they can be up together with the market, with the new young people, and bringing in more business opportunities, for example. You have to say something. I see your hand. You have a lower, upper hand or something like that. I see the sign of raising hand. Oh, okay. Accidental, is it?
Yeah. Sorry.
No problem. Okay. Right. So then, yeah. So we'll finish it up soon. Okay. Yeah, it's already 4:30. Okay, we'll be up here for 2 hours. And then, so this one here is what we call engineering economic studies. Then here I'm covering what we call feasibility studies, which you hear a lot. Okay? So feasibility studies is basically a name that actually covers what I've been talking about. So feasibility studies is about whether the project is actually good, the project is actually having a solution that is practical, that is economical, socially and environmentally viable for the stakeholders, or for the funders of the project. So whatever that we've spoken about, starting from the work scope statement to the option studies, to the robustness studies, to the option studies, basically we are incorporating that into what we call feasibility studies. So it's actually quite common to do a feasibility studies, and especially feasibility studies for us engineers, we like to think of it as technical studies. So this is the time that you go to site and do some bore logs, you get the survey to go down and do some topo, studies, and then you go to the site and look at the location, look at the surrounding facilities, and what are the existing facilities, the substations, the road, the main road, the secondary road that is around that site or that part of the project. Or you go down to look at it and see whether the soil conditions, how the soil conditions by carrying out bore logs and testing in certain section of the work, of certain portion of the site, you see. So this, a lot of us like to think of that. And it is true, feasibility should include that, It should include technical studies. It should include the site studies. It should include locality studies. It should include whether you have any logistic issues or not. But it is more than that. You do have economic studies as well, which we spoke about. CBA, cost benefit analysis, which deals a lot with money, and the CEA deals a lot with money. I mean, things benefit that is not being able to physically express in monetary terms. Okay, so it will be expressed in maybe a qualitative kind of benefit. Okay, and please by all means do not think about any of these studies that I'm talking about related to financial evaluation. Finance is a viability studies, a financial viability studies, which I will spoke in a little bit more detail in a little while. So in this feasibility studies, we're talking about more on economics, on social, on anything that is good for the project and anything what the project will cost to the funder or to the end user, whether it's actually doable or not. So we are talking about, is it possible? Is it possible to do this project? Is it possible? I mean, like, yes, the answer is already yes or no. Okay, now the option is there. But then we want to study it in such a way that we want to understand that this work that you are talking about here, is it too big? Is it too small? Is it not good enough? What is it not doable? It's very important because we do not want the project to go to this stage and then you start to do a final design and realize that there's certain things that you just cannot do. Maybe it is not part of, maybe you get rejection from the authorities, maybe there is no such planning in the state, or whether there's no support from any of the authorities. So there's a lot of issues that could come up at this stage. So feasibility studies is very, very important. And like I said, a majority part of the feasibility studies is talking about the cost and benefit. So when we talk about option studies, these are all under these particular studies of feasibility studies, okay? So feasibility studies is either you already fix on that option and then you study this option in more detail. Now you already know you want to build a 60-kilometer flyover or highway or freeway with 5 different flyovers, for example. You already know this is in that option studies. You've already done that option studies, you see? So here you've got that, you've picked that options already, and then you want to study it in more detail. And in fact, if it's as a responsible government, when we come to this sort of studies, especially for infrastructure project, you will need to get a third party to really fully study all the social, economics, legal, health, all sorts of impact the project will have, whether it's going to be pollution, environmental, all these things need to be studied very carefully and be put very clearly to the public that whether we are constructing something that will affect your life, the residents of this area, that it will be for the better or for the worse. Of course, when you put it up already, it's supposed to be for the better lah. So that's why sometimes they say that the report is panky. So we do not want our consultant to be appointed as a government linked consultant. Maybe we will have to have a separate. Maybe sometimes they actually get overseas consultant to do it. That sort of thing to make sure that depending on how much of transparencies they want and how much of non-conflict of interest that we are looking at here. You see that we want to make sure that the report are very, very subjective. Okay. So again, feasibilities, you can include option studies in feasibility studies, or if the option study is very, very super clear, is you have to do this, then you do not need to do option studies. Option studies can be done already. It's a yes, go ahead, and this is the option that you're going to pick. And then you move in and do a feasibility studies, especially on whether the project is doable or not, constructible or not, buildable or not, okay? And whether it has good value, whereas in the benefit will exceed the cost, whether it's in terms of dollars and cents or whether it's in terms of physical units such as health, education, pollution, economy, better build up of the economy, or whether it's improvement on the social, the lifestyles, or the income of the people. Income is part of economy, demography. This is all in demography in social, income is in economy. So benefit cost ratio is done in this particular section of this business. Besides, but of course I will still emphasize technically the technical studies like any technical data, the location, the topo, the ground conditions, these are very important. The weather conditions, the flooding, the river flow, and all these are all very important information that you must also put it in your feasibility studies, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, don't forget about that. It's not all about dollars and cents. It's not about cost benefit. It actually is about other things like technical plus money and technical plus benefit and cost. So at the end of the day, it's about whether you really want to embark onto these options. Not to say you want to embark onto these options. Sorry, I shouldn't say that. You want to embark on the option, but whether you can do it or not. Okay. So these are some of the main phases in the feasibility studies, things that you can do. So you can do your data collection, studies, forecasts, analysis, and then after that, it was very important risk. A lot of people miss out on this. Okay. So then these are the content of the feasibility studies. You can have economic studies, you can have sensitivity analysis, social studies, environmental impact studies. Then, so these are all part and parcel of the feasibility studies. So again, like I said, technical plus all these ding dong, a lot of these other studies that you must carry out in your feasibility studies. So in Malaysia, in Sarawak, maybe in Sabah as well, a lot of us are concentrating feasibility studies as technical studies. We don't really concentrate on other things as well. So again, feasibility studies, if you study by the government or by the private agency or by the NGOs, they're all very different. The report that you come out, you see the focus is all very different. The benefit that they're looking at, the cost that they're looking at can be vastly differing from one another. Okay. And then we come to the financial analysis. Financial analysis, this is really about cash flow. Does your company have the money to build it? Does the government have the fund to do this? You see? So financial analysis, number one, you will look at expenditure, how much money that you're going to be spending on the project, and then how much operation maintenance costs later on, which we will cover in things like LCC studies. So this investment is going to be one shot. You're going to have money. You need to pay for it. Nobody's going to work for you for free. See? So the money will come in, the capital needs to be there. So in terms of financial studies, number one is cash flow. Does your company have the cash flow? Do you have the money to do it? Do you have any profit previously retained? Are you going to borrow money are you going to sell some properties? Are you going to cash in on some of the old assets? Are you going to bring in more investment? Are you going to raise money from the stakeholders to carry out this project? So cash flow, how much money do you have? How much revenue and how fast the return will be so that you can cover the investment that you are looking at. So cash flow and funding, and whether you want to just lease or buy, you don't really have to go all the way out and construct. You probably can borrow facilities, renovate the facilities and use the facilities first. Well, we don't know, you see. So there is possibilities. There's many possibilities. So financial studies here, cash flow, funding, where your money is going to come from, and then whether you can raise it by selling assets, by disposing all assets, by borrowing from banks, from financial institutions, raising it from equities from your stakeholders or from the board of directors, more investments and all that. And then it has to be approved by the board of directors as well. Yeah. So then there may be leasing options, and then you come up with a financial plan. So without a financial plan, you cannot answer whether the project is viable or not. Viable means financially viable, technically and economically feasible, financially viable. Okay, so these are the few words that you have to remember. There's a difference here. Financially, finance, when we talk about really accounting cash flow, companies' cash flow, where the money is going to come from, these are all under finance, okay? It's not under economy study. Economy is a cost and benefit study. The technical is whether it's buildable, whether it's doable, logistically, ground conditions, everything is technical. So this combine of these three studies here will really find the project. And then obviously when you start to go into the nitty-gritty bit, you will look into the value, which is the value engineering. So whether the project has value. So in terms of VE, you need to improve on different components of the project. Can it be optimized? Can it be better? Can you improve on certain sections? Can you make it smaller? Can you make it bigger but more value or higher performance? So VE studies is very important when it comes to project value. Does it really bring in the best value for your money? Okay, and the LCC is asking you to consider over the lifespan. You don't only think about capital costs. Many of these things, this operation and maintenance costs. Who is going to pay for operation and maintenance costs? And that will also affect the sales of the project. If I build apartment and in Sarawak it's 35 cents a meter square, you're going to pay about 300 over ringgit for the operating and maintenance of the building alone only. So as a buyer, if I'm going to buy a apartment that is going to cost me about 1,500 to finance every month, and I need to pay $350 for all these additional costs, I have to think twice. Do I really want to buy? You see? So life cycle costing, if you don't cost in the operation, the customer usage, the maintenance, the support, the disposal, and all that, you may be forgetting a very big portion of the cost. And then when you forget about it and then you bring it forward and then put it onto the head of the buyer, you may have a drop in sales and or a very, very bad taste in the mouth of people who are actually purchasing your facilities or using your facilities. They are paying too much. Rentals are too high, you know, and all that. And then it just makes it very, very unattractive. And that will cause some sort of ripple impact onto the, sales and also the marketing and the image and, the goodwill of the company. It's all related to one another in terms of the business sense, that sense, okay? So life cycle costing is about project worth. Is it really just the capital cost? We think about construction costs. We engineers love construction costs. We can do all the construction costs, but we forget all about maintenance costs. Drains needs to be maintained, water pipeline needs to be maintained, water treatment plant needs to be maintained. That's why you get a lot of this project that doesn't work after 5 years because nobody maintained them, And then instead of like being able to be used over 20 years, you only have used it over 5 years. So tell me the worth of the project. The project is worth, the worth is so lousy. No worth. Okay? You're paying to use it for five years. You're paying 5 million for 5 years compared to something that I invest 5 million, I can use it for 20 years. Tell me your project worth, you see. So make sure that we think about operation maintenance when it comes to the scope of work. We cannot build something that it's going to create many high maintenance and operation costs, and then expect that to be covered by the end users or by the buyer, in terms of tolls, in terms of levies, in terms of taxes, or in terms of maintenance fees. All these things will not be very feasible in the long run in that sense, right? And then of course the value of it is to come up with value engineering. You can look into the project as early stages. When you come up with the scope of work as early as possible, we try to streamline, optimize, and make the project as value as high value as possible with the low cost, high performance, or with a reasonable cost but high performance, or with low cost and reasonable performance. So these are value engineering and LCC, which I will cover with you in more details next week in the recording. I'll have 3 recordings on LCC and 3 recordings on VE. Altogether, we're looking at about an hour. So next week, I will have a class about an hour with you, and I'll leave you to do the recording. If we just come and take attendance, and then after that, we will discuss on the assignment, on the work breakdown. And then once we have no more questions, I will post up the recording, and you can just listen to the recording at your own free time now. So of course, it's very important for us to manage scope change. We do not want our project to have scope creep, meaning that at the end of the day, after changing so many things, you end up, the project is not the way that you are imagining it to be in the first place anymore. So scope changes, this is more onto construction, site management, contract administrations, you know, and on project management, other components later on procurement, on site management, on scope. This is change control, VOs, which we will manage in terms of contract administration. So these are part and parcel of that stages later on. But it's important for us to realize that once you set up the scope of work, you want to fulfill the scope of work. You do not want too many changes after that, okay? As much as possible, because any changes will cost money, time, and it will affect the performance of the project sooner or later, okay? So yeah, very specifically here, we are just saying that scope management is about the flow process of coming up with the scope of work, studying the scope of work based on the feasibilities of it and whether it's go ahead, not go ahead options. And then also once you pick the options, studies the doability, which is the feasibilities of the technical and feasibility of the economy with the other components like social, legal, etc., environmental, you know, that sort of things. And then you have a financial bit whereby we talk about whether you have the funding, the cash, the money, the raising of the funds with, you know, through the company shareholders in order to make sure that the project can actually, the funding, the money can support the scope of work. Then we are really off to do the project and then to manage it, calling for procurement, calling for, you know, more planning, calling for design, calling for tender, construction, and all that. Yeah, so these are the flow of scope management now. Okay, so any questions on scope management? There's some notes here that you can go through, okay, and run through it again. Are you guys finding it interesting? Oh, some of you are falling asleep. Any questions? Anything you want to bring to the table and we have some discussion before we end? Any one of you are actually involved in, you know, the maybe feasibility studies on economy studies, that sort of thing, option studies? How many of you have actually done that before? Roland, have you done it before, Roland?
Done that, yeah.
Feasibility studies, what do you normally cover for, like, let's say just the usual consultancy? Do you cover this sort of details that we're talking about here?
We have for drainage and for the not the drainage, the sistem jembatan banjir, hard vegetation. Yeah.
So usually they are more concerned about the money, the funding, the ability for the funder to, you know, bring the money to the table, huh?
Yeah. Number one is how extend the work need to be done. Normally it's bigger than the money lah. Always because for infra work, it's so difficult for them to get funding for them so that they break into few package lah. Even though you do the whole study, but they only break into few package. Water supply and also this jembatan banjir, flood mitigation.
Yeah. So actually, like I say, you know, once you go through the yes or no, you know, and then when if there's a reason the project must go ahead, let's say for election purpose, you know, for political purpose, you know, or for the demand purpose by certain residents, you know, for certain infrastructure projects, then let's say if we move on to do the feasibility studies, you know, the concern of feasibility studies may not be so strong anymore. It will be more on the financial studies. So in the financial studies, you need to look at the funding, and if let's say the funding is not enough to cover the entire thing, then we will need to have options to break it down and relay out the components or the portion or prioritize the part that needs to be done first, you see? Yeah, and then you kind of like streamline your options study a little bit in that sense.
Correct. You're correct, doctor. But most of the time, doctor, the feasibility study kan only can be taken off after 5 years or 10 years. Because sometimes when they already start the project kan, outcome already redundant already, the result. Because there's no longer, it's supposed to be, when you do the feasibility study, they give a timeline, this how long to be done, like impact, impact lah what. But sometimes when the fund came in kan, it's already beyond already the feasibility study timeline. So most of the work is happening lah in Sabah mostly. That's why when we try to implement infrastructure work kan, it doesn't solve the problem. There's no immediate impact because of the study was done long time ago, then implemented.
And then they didn't revamp the studies. I mean, I think any feasibility studies is only going to be valid for about 3 years maximum. 5 years is too long.
Oh, I see. Three years, shorter.
2 to 3 years, I think maximum. Like you do the study, if you don't implement the project after 2 or 3 years, and then if you are going to embark onto it, let's say 4 or 5 years later, you should redo the feasibility studies already.
There's a lot of money spent on the feasibility studies.
Because nowadays, the things move very fast. You know, the difference between 3 and 5 years now, the things are very fast. Things are moving very fast. Development are moving very fast. Infra are moving fast. You know, so everything is actually going in a faster pace. So if we talk about maybe like 10 years ago or even 20 years, 15 years ago, 10 to 15 years ago, if you talk about one feasibility studies, now you do it, maybe 5 years time is still valid. It's still okay to use back the same feasibility studies. Now, not so much, you know, like things can change, like weather conditions, river direction, flow, everything can change quite fast, you know. So I think it's better if you, let's say a project, after you've done your feasibility studies, you should carry it out. But at least starting the design and some form of option studies and all that, it must proceed within about 3 years. Especially nowadays, I mean, I kind of felt it, you know, like a lot of changes can happen very instantaneously in that sense, you know, and then a lot of even the weather conditions, like I said, the environmental conditions are changing very fast, you know, rather than as compared to about 10 to 15 years ago, I would say, yeah. So if you say that the feasibility studies that you do, and then later on, 5 years later, you start to plan for design and all that, I think by the time you do design and construction, it's already like 7 years or 6 years down the track. When you got that feasibility study still can work. I don't think it will work anymore. Even prices of materials are changing, like, you know, overnight. And technology is very fast as well, you know. Construction technology, you know, and all these things are so fast, you know. It's like the options that we have 3-4 years ago, it may not be the best anymore for like 2022, for example. Something that we planned on 2019, can you imagine? I don't think it's actually feasible in 2022. You just imagine now, post-COVID and pre-COVID. So if you think about feasibility studies that is done post-COVID in 2019, and now you want to start to carry it out, I think that there must, not to say that you have to redo the entire feasibility studies, but you have to go back and recheck the feasibility studies. You know, spend some effort to go through the feasibility studies and, you know, maybe supplement it with some new data. Don't just depend on the old data that is 3 years ago.
Yeah, doctor, I want to say something. I agree with you, doctor. Like feasibility study is done during 2019. We are still using like schedule of RED 2018. The project implement in 2022 this year. It will create a lot of hard on the financial part. In fact, like the material are gone up until 300% during the COVID and then materials coming from China and whatsoever. So like this, how we do overcome this issue, doctor?
because of like the opening up of the Chinese part of the like China market as well, I think that has a very strong impact on the local market as well. Many things that you probably can actually just like is the things like door knobs, window frames, paints, all of these you probably can easily get from China. And now that with the logistics of bringing in all this material, it gets a lot easier. So that in itself does have an impact on our construction costs and the way that we carry out the quality, the performance of the work as well. And if we go to all sorts of tech space around the world, especially in China, Hong Kong, and all that, you will see that there are many, many new technology that is up there. And if we pick up on any of this new technology, a lot of the things that we are currently designing may not be even valid anymore. Okay, so this is really a fast pace, like I said, especially these 5 years, 10 to 5 years, I think it's been happening in a very fast paced kind of manner. So it's not just not to say you can overcome or not overcome. And there are a lot of this local material due to COVID and due to a lot of this labor, unavailability of skilled laborers, and then some of the factories being closed down during COVID, and then less competition locally, and then you will end up having to stack up prices for certain materials and certain machineries and technology. So there is two things here that we are looking at, like locally a lot of prices has gone up, but internationally a lot of new things are coming in, and the local people are actually facing a lot of competition as well from overseas, you see. And Malaysia at the moment, because we are more or less still having a closed up kind of market. So maybe for government project, they will not allow you to actually use like your own imported Chinese products, which is actually probably as good as any of the local product, even better, you see, at a cheaper kind of price. So then we have to bear with the fact that we have to bear with the fact of the high price and being in this in this situation in the middle of the hurricane kind of thing of price increase and all that. So I would say just be very aware, and government agency, private market have to be very aware of the pacing of the construction industry at this stage. If Chinese can construct like 18 stories apartment in a month or 30 days kind of thing, like how are we going to compete with them, if they're actually if we actually have an open market in that sense. So yeah, I mean, like we need to be able to be strong enough to face that competition, to be ready to face that competition once we open up, not to say even Chinese, we just look at Vietnam, and Thai, Indonesia. I mean, like we do have a lot of competition from our own region as well. They are also surviving. They are also trying to be better. You see, so we need to try to be better in that sense, and not to be stagnant in following the old styles, doing the old things, making use of the old materials, to staying in our comfort zone. That's what I feel. Yeah, I mean, that's what I think basically. And a lot of engineers like us, our design techniques our material or constructions are old style, too old style. And that is because the government protects us in a sense. But in that cocoon that we have, our cocoon is getting warmer and warmer. You see, we are in a cocoon. They don't open up to the open market, but then in this particular cocoon, it's just like they put you in a pot, and the pot has a boiling water down there. So sooner or later, you will get, if you don't get out of the pot, you see. So the way of doing it is you really need to go through those documents very carefully, especially contractual documents, and those that are already past like 2019 that are a bit off the criteria needs to be revamped, and you need to renegotiate with contractors so that we have less issues. And or renegotiate with the consultant or renegotiate with the client. Everybody needs to sit down and work through this period of uncertainties, I would say, and then also work through this period of things has been changing. Things has been changing quite rapidly. So once we pick up the pace, I think it should be all right. I mean, now it's just because of, markets are start to open up post-COVID, and then you do have a lot of old contract that wasn't done before, and a lot of issues with contract administration, correct or not? Because it was signed in 2019, it's supposed to finish in 2021, for example, and it's because of COVID, there's a lot of extension of time, and whether to give the extension of time or not. And then once you give it, then what about the prices? So there is a lot of negotiation needs to go on, honestly. Honestly, I think, I mean, to be fair, we cannot just put it on a contractor, ask them to absorb the cost, When you have every contractor in the country going bankrupt, then what's the point? The industry is not going to move. So we still have to be objective about it and negotiate and come to a meeting point. This is our industry. It's not somebody's industry. It's our industry. We need to sort of like find a balance in that sense, yeah. And like I said, for feasibility studies, all these issues, you have to supplement the data. You cannot just say that, I've done this 2018. I mean, if you come out with a report 2019, it's basically saying that you've only done it 2018, The data was from 2018 and below. So how can you be sure that the data is still valid? So you maybe, like, for example, need to collect a few more water samples. It might cost you a bit more money, but it's, if you don't spend that little money, the big money will come later. The cost of it will be, if you design the wrong thing or over design or under design based on the old data, old feasibility studies, old technical preliminary site investigation, all the old things, then you will have problems later. And your design is not going to fit, so you must, it is a responsibility actually of engineers to be updated with all the data. There is no compromise at all, actually. Do you think so, Arthur?
Yeah, because the population increase and the water demand also increase over time.
Yeah.
Right, Doctor? Yep.
Right.
Yeah, there's a challenge. Agree to disagree. We have no authority to change the thing. But back to the like you said, to the government itself, how they implement this thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think always the private sector will be faster, I mean, like, it's normal. Then the government agency, at the moment, I think they're still struggling hanging on to the old information, the old styles of things, And sooner or later, they have to realize that it's actually not workable as well. It's a completely different pace already at the moment. And overall, as Malaysia, as open trade, you want to be fair trade, you want to be open trade. You want to send kelapa sawit to China, you must open the China market as well. You cannot just say that, okay, I close my market here, your barang cannot enter, my barang can go to your country. No such thing, you see. So if you say, okay, if China don't take our kelapa sawit, we are not the only one in the world that has kelapa sawit. I mean, there are Indonesia that has plenty of kelapa sawit, and they're more than happy to compromise and send it to them. So we do not have any. The thing about globalization is actually making the world smaller. Make the world smaller. It makes the world more, in a way, accessible to the rest of the other people. It's just as simple. I mean, I recently heard from a friend who told me that like they were buying some machines, like locally they're buying some machines that is costing like maybe like 5,000 or 6,000, And then he got so pissed, it's like these people just don't want to give discount, or they increase the price too much from like maybe 4,000 or 5,000, they go up to 6,000, 7,000 kind of thing. So then he got so pissed. He just said, okay, I go and look for Taobao, and then or some form of supplier from China, and then they end up quoting like maybe just a few thousand, and then with transportation costs here, it's just less than 4,000, and then you might as well get it from the. It's only one-off item, you can just post largely. I mean, like, you can just courier it in. So obviously the big things you can't because, like I say, our market in terms of there's still a lot of market protection in that sense. So when you say about price increase, it is not healthy. It is just basically saying that competition is just not strong enough. When a competition is not strong enough, the people who are suffering is the end user. The end user is going to get very expensive items. Why the houses is like intermediate semi-D, 700,000, 800,000? Because the local suppliers are actually monopolizing a market because of the protected market, you see. And once this is over, which is sooner or later, it has to be over, then we're gonna have an open market that competition will be stiff, you see. And prices will come down, if there is competition. Just that at the moment, everybody is finding excuse trying to increase price, It's just that at this point in time, after COVID, everything is opening up, business are going back to business as usual. And then people are taking this opportunity to increase prices in everything, But it's not going to be sustainable. It's not going to be sustainable. And the matter is now, I think we just have to tie through this period, when things will start to stabilize, and then it will be a lot easier to get things from outside, and then things will be slowly, like maybe things like interior, certain items that are no regulations on it. Like, for example, pipe, you have regulations. It has to be locally manufactured. So you have no choice, you see. But there are other items such as like, architecture item, interior design kind of item, AutoGAT, pumps, all these sort of things that it's not considered. I mean, there are items that are not considered as it's not considered as like a what you call what is the name again? Protected item, So we will slowly start to get all this, cost reduction in construction as well, in that sense, yeah. And of course, efficiency in terms of building it faster, carrying out more efficient techniques, these are all going to help with reduction of cost. So I think just be very careful. If I want to summarize what I've been trying to say is, you ask me what kind of suggestion do I have, to actually improve on this situation. We cannot blame everything on the government. I mean, we are all one entity. Everybody has a part to play. The industry, the engineers, the government, we all have our own part to play. As engineers, if you're designers, you have to be more careful. Look into your data, the old data more carefully. You have to start to negotiate back the contract, look into some of the pitfalls or holes in the contract and see whether you can improve on that at this point in time. So you just have to be doing your part as well in that sense. That is what I would say lah. As contractor, you cannot just say that, I cut the old price already, but you have to prove it. Why? And then ask for a VO, for example. So everything has to be within reason, I would say lah. And I think everybody has to do their part. It just cannot be everybody shouting, everything is increase, the data is lousy, I cannot use it, and blah, blah, blah. And then, and then it's just not going to get anybody anyway by just being unreasonable about it. Okay. So I think, as engineers, we have to be very careful with our data, with our studies, with our investigation, with our reporting. And then as contractor, you have to be very concerned about your costing. You have to be understanding where you're going to get your material from, and all these things have to work together to increase when you absolutely need to, but to maintain where it's actually not necessary to increase, you see. So it's a compromise that everybody needs to make. So don't put each other on the adversarial kind of manner. Just have to work together, I would say. And don't treat contractor like they are, they're the bad guys, and don't treat consultant like they're the bad guys. And just it can be a negotiated kind of environment. We need to be friendly, but you can sit down and talk, right? We are civilized people. Have a meeting, work through the contract. Have a meeting, look through the data, kind of thing. You see. All right. Anything else you want to cover?
Yes, I have question, Doctor.
Yeah.
Regarding the financial study, who should the best person to do this study? Is it engineer or economist?
Financial studies are, I
Yeah,
would
yeah,
say, if
this
your
one.
company have a CFO, that would be the best. Or the account section of your company should work together with the engineers. Financial, I would say truly financial studies are better done through, but economic studies like MPV and all that, that one can be done by engineers. But if you talk about a very strict financial studies like cash flow, accounting, balance sheet, profit and loss, fundings, money, and all that, it's better to be done with people, not economists, but people with accounting background.
Because most of the time when the engineers do the financial projection, when they, let's say, just now like Arthur punya cases lah, study 2019, but the price is 2018. As an engineer, we never can go, we cannot project the inflation what for the like 2020 baru start kan, and we don't know how the money the cost will will like so called this move up or move down lah. That's why I think kalau engineer do, we only can refer on the previous data rather than also call this like projecting the costing.
Actually, for engineers, normally what we do is our major concern is the construction cost. The construction cost is you calculate based on whatever data that you have on the year that you calculate. Okay, that will be your best estimation at that point in time. Okay. The other thing that you could do is you put it through FV, meaning that future value. If this is going to be like constructed in year 1 or year 2 or year 3, you do have a formula to convert this capital construction cost into a future value. So this future value is under engineering economics, okay? But that one, it can be done easily by engineers. So usually value of money will drop, meaning that the sum will get bigger, but the value is still the same. You get what I mean? It's a bit like inflation. So there's hardly anything that we talk about is going to be deflated in a big way, you see. So if it deflated, then it's good lah, like you get some, you actually get some more profit. But normally our calculation is based on future value. So if you calculate year 0, 2019 is a year 0, then you can do a future value studies with a certain interest or certain inflation rate of 6% or 5% or 10%, 8%. I mean, that kind of interest, that I is very important. When you calculate that I, then year 1, based on that I, your value now is going to be year 1 value. Year 1 value is probably about the same, and year 2 value is going to be a bit bigger. Year 3 value is going to be a bit bigger. So if you have done that study, and it's not a very difficult study, the formula Dr. Lee will give it to you guys later on. And you can just project that, if you carry out this project in year 2020 or 2022, like you can have a projection sheet. So our concern is about the construction cost being projected into the cost, you see. And then, of course, we do have other costs like operation and maintenance, which you totally need to carry out if your project is going to be maintained by the same client or by the same project person, you see. I mean, the project stakeholders. Like let's say a shopping mall, it may be maintained by the developers. So they need to calculate the future operation and maintenance cost. And that is LCC already. There's LCC studies that can be carried out by engineers. And in fact, it should be carried out by engineers. The formula is very fixed actually, but then engineers will think that, okay, in year one, my yearly maintenance is this much, okay? Inclusive of operation of people, inclusive of minor repair materials. Okay, these are my yearly costs. And there are every 5 yearly costs. Maybe you need to repaint 5 yearly, or you need to repair certain things. You expect certain things to break down in year 5. So LCC is basically you map out that plan. You map out that maintenance and operation plan. And then from that mapping out of the maintenance and operation plan, you will use the either annual method or the present value method, PV method, to calculate future costs. So there are ways to calculate this. So what we don't do now is we never do it. We calculate the construction cost as in 2019, and then by 2021 we want to implement, then we're going to have a lot of issues, you see. So then we need to renegotiate the contract. But every contract that you put down, every tender and every proposal that you break down, there will be a validity period attached to it. Usually it's about 6 months maximum. So if people quote you 2020, 2019, how do you expect them to hold the price in 2022? That is a bit ridiculous, isn't it? So it has to be a retender or a renegotiation with the same contractors. So it's not, it's not valid anymore. Every tender, every quotation is written there. There is a tender validity or a quotation validity period. Usually 3 months, maximum 6 months. Nobody's going to hold the price for like 2 years for you, Correct or not, Roland?
Yes, correct, Doctor. This is very, very true in the.
So yeah, there's a few solutions here. So either as an engineer, when you calculate your construction cost, you also do a projection for your client, meaning that if you constructed it this year, next year the cost will be something like this. If you construct it in 2 years' time, there may be this implication in cost, you see. And then if they do decide to do it like in 2 years later, if they can refer back to your projection, they will still need to, they will still need to tender or get proposal or get quotation. Then your calculation, they can use your calculation as a guideline. Or in many cases, they will have to ask you to recalculate again. The consultant estimate of the job, and then you have to redo it, redo the calculation. You cannot go back and throw them the old calculation.
Yes, that's correct. I think there's new thing I learned today is the future value, because as you say, we never put the future value. When we say their costing is like this, 1 million, then we leave it to the client. Suddenly the client want to do it in the next 3 years after, they still think 1 million.
Yeah, correct, exactly. Then it is the consultant, it is our irresponsibility actually to not be very clear about that.
Thank you, Doctor. This one, thank you.
So in the future, when you actually propose something to the client, it's better for you to do a projection, because now knowing that not all clients will carry out the project immediately, you see. And many times, especially government and even private sectors, it may take 2 or 3 years before the actual tender and construction will be ongoing. So, you don't want them to be shocked. I said, 1 million. And now it's like the tender all put 2 million and above. You guys are lousy or what? Like don't know how to calculate that. But my friend, this is like what, 2-3 years back, you see. So they need to realize that in that sense, they cannot be unreasonable about that. So if you can put in the future costs in the projection and also project your maintenance and operation if necessary, then the client actually get a better picture about what the future cost will be, you see.
Yeah, correct. This is what happening in our, to be honest, in our Pan Borneo project. This is what is the actual happening in Sabah. When the study was made, just to share you a bit, when the study was made, you can ask also Engineer Tangkoji lah, because he is one of the pioneer who are setting up the Pan Borneo punya PMC. It was projected at 12 billion to finish all the 30 package. Then after doing the design, the detail, everything, suddenly the cost become 24 billion. Double.
And that is, the problem of this, they didn't actually study this thing properly. 4 million and 24 million, no matter what, the doubling in the normal inflation will not come unless it is 7 or 8 years delay. If you talk about 2 or 3 years delay, doubling the price, you are actually looking at initial estimation not correct. They probably missed out on, I know a lot of this consultant, right? The mentality, okay, Pan Borneo, they build, they think that, the way that they calculate and the way that they design, they didn't do that study on issue management. You see, they don't do a proper environment impact study. So then they, in their mind, they take the cost and the rate and all that for a normal road or normal highway or normal road in a rural area, for example. But like Pan Borneo going through the whole Sabah all the way to Sarawak to Sabah, it's really, really going through a lot of areas that are impossible to build even. So technically, these people did not do a good feasibility studies. They didn't explore the elements, within the project, the potential constraints and the requirements and the issues properly. And then you end up, their mentality is designed like a normal highway, but yeah, normal highway costs 12 million. But when you put it through, all the rural jungles, the rainforest of Sarawak and Sabah, and then going through river and mountain and all that kind of things. I mean, how can that be 12 million, correct? It's 12 billion, for example. It's just not, I mean, for me, I mean, like, I don't have the data, I don't have the detail, but like I said, if you say to me that, if this is a double of the cost, let's say the delay of the project in construction starting from the planning all the way to actual construction was about 7 or 8 years or even 10 years, then the cost double is entirely possible because of the inflation of, even if you put an inflation of 6%, cost will double in about 7 or 8 years' time. The future value will double. So if you just talk about, if let's say from planning all the way to design is less than 5 years, I think there's something wrong with the feasibility studies and the design. They did not tackle for the potential issues and the environment of the project carefully. And the feasibility studies, especially the technical part, wasn't done carefully. That's why when the contractor quote, they actually go to site or they actually quote based on their experience on the rural area and all that, then they end up quoting a lot higher. And also we have to remember, and this is the fact that, that we all know, okay, basically when as us as a consultant, when we put in the rate and all that, but after we design, we propose to the client, but you have to remember the contractor, in that sense, there is a lot of Alibaba contractor. And Pan Borneo did not escape the fact that fate of having a lot of middleman contractor. Correct or not? You have
Doctor.
some big company taking it at a high price and give it to a smaller company, to a smaller company, to a smaller company. Maybe the smaller company really do it at 12 billion. But the higher company, the middleman company are the one that absorb all the other 12 billion. You believe me or not?
Yes, Doctor. This is the long problems in the construction. Even the JKR, they have the clause to not to sub this work, but still in practice they're still doing this. I don't know how we want to move out from these problems outside Bombay, our punya construction industry. We still hear it every time. They sub and sub. But actually the price is very good price. But in the end, when it come to the work,
Yeah.
nothing much we can do. We have to accept as long they finish, we report complete, okay already lah. As long there's no there's no much
Yeah.
what's it called this NCR.
Yeah, correct. I mean, it is very sad, like, in that sense. I mean, I do agree with you all as well. I mean, but I do not want to give up. You know, I think the industry is, I mean, we as all as engineers, every one of us are engineers here. I mean, I do feel like, yes, we know there's certain issues and certain problems, but let's not give up. Let's not give up as in, you know, we don't have to play the game, or we don't have to, you know, be disheartened by this, you know, and just do our best in our own position to make things good for the industry. In your work area, in your design, you know, we do it professionally, you know, we do it well. If you are supervision engineers, you do it well, you do it properly. I think sooner or later things will move up for the better. We cannot, like I say, we are in the cocoon because we are very much protected, you see. So and like I said, the market cannot be protected forever, you know. The world is going into globalization, you know, information are being passed through, you know, from people to people within seconds, you see. Last time you do these sort of things, maybe 2 years, 3 years, 8 years later, then come out in newspaper. Now, you buka Facebook saja, semua sana sudah. I think it's really it's not sustainable lah. This sort of old practice are not sustainable lah. So I think like what your question is, like the Cambodia one, like, you know, like how the cost actually double. I mean, there is a few cases, so like I said, feasibility study is not properly done. The design was actually carried out based on very standard designs in the first place. Did not consider many of the elements within the rural area, settings, especially logistic, and especially for Sarawak, I'm not sure Sabah, our soft soil condition, that is a big headache. If we go through our road through those areas, I tell you, the cost can easily double or triple even. And that is another issue. And of course, like I said, the middleman issue is another issue that could have caused the problem. And then also the non-consideration of the value of money in the future. They did not do a projection like a 7 years, 8 years, or 10 years projection on Pan Borneo costing of the project. It's actually very important to do that, you know, Roland. It's very important. Anything more than 3 years, like I said, you really need, like maybe within 36 months, 24 to 36 months, you still can maybe, you know, like telan it kind of thing, you know. But then anything more than that, you really need to calculate the future value, you know, of money.
Yeah, correct, Doctor. I agree. Because of the habits of the way the government do the work, and you know lah, you give them something, then they bring it to upper, then go it to the cabinet, go to and then come back. It should take time already. I think like 2 years already, just to do the presentation, and then for the budgeting, asking for the budget.
Yeah.
So future value is something have to be put inside the. No, I agree with you. Feasibility need to include with the future value, not only current value but the future value.
Correct. Especially when we calculate the options and when we do the economic studies. Yeah. Whether we do the economic study with the help of economists, especially if this is a very big project, we probably should include the help of economists. But if it's a normal project, you know, like not so grand or whatever, then you probably can just do a projection of future value, especially with the construction cost. You can split the construction cost. Let's say we talk about 12 million, you can actually split the construction cost, the package, into like 7 years or 8 years, and then from that package, every year there's a construction cost you can calculate, and then from there, that construction cost needs to be projected into the future value. Okay, I will take note of this and ask Dr. Lee to explain that a little bit more, when we come to the calculation of future value, especially this question that is raised by you guys. So that
Thank you,
maybe she
doctor.
can show you some examples on how to calculate future value. But it's the same, it's a little bit same as the LCC that I will give you pre-recording next week. So like LCC, you need to say, okay, 5 years later, I need to retile my recode my road. I need to do like maintenance, road maintenance. Let's say like the potong rumput and all these things is yearly you know. And then, but then let's say repair of potholes is once every year or once every 2 years. You need to do a projection first. So once you've done the projection, then you calculate the cost. And then it can be an annual cost. If you do an annual cost method, then all the future annual costs, you need to convert your present capital cost into an annual cost. Then you can get the full annual cost. But if you calculate using a present value method, then you need to bring all the annual cost into a single value and then bring it into a future value. So there is a few techniques that you need, but it's actually not very difficult mathematics. Actually, if you have an Excel worksheet that you've already set up a formula, it's actually quite easy one. So I'm sure with engineers like us all, you know, when it comes to that kind of mathematics, it's actually easy peasy one. It's not like rocket scientists, you know, or chemistry or, you know, high level physics, quantum physics or something, you know, it's not like that. It's actually simple. All right, I think we can maybe give it a rest for now. Okay, and anything else from anyone else? Maybe we can have a last questions. We're almost 5:30 already. It's good to have discussion. Like I said, this will actually enhance our lectures, you know, that we see way to apply certain things, you know, instead of me just talking about the framework and then you listening, you know, at least you know how to apply this in your workplace, you see. Okay. All right, so I'll see you guys next week. We'll spend some time together on the assignment and on any questions that we have over the notes today and the recording today. And then I will leave you with LCC and VE pre-recorded lecture next week.
Okay, doctor.
Anyone wants to do the QR? All done already, right? All the 13 people. Yeah, so I think it's all done already. The one no need to reopen. Yeah, 13 all done already. Johnson did not check in, so never mind. All right, so I'll post up the recording maybe because tomorrow I have a whole day meeting. Most likely I will come home and do it tomorrow evening because the recording, if it's 3 hours, normally WebEx will take some time to send it to my email. So by the time I get it, will be probably later in the evening already. So, or maybe later tonight already. So when I come back tomorrow evening, I will process the video and then give you guys the link on eLeave. So the earliest that you can expect the recording from today and the notes will be tomorrow evening, okay? Once I post, I will also let you know. All right then, see you guys. Have a good day.
Okay, thank you, doctor. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, doctor.
Thank you, doctor.
See you.
Thank you, doctor.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.